Tuesday, August the 16th. This is the Board of County Commissioners work session agenda. It is 1 o'clock, and the first item on our agenda is
Mike, you just need to talk into it, please.
oh, this one?
Thank you.
Okay. And first item, why am I hearing myself?
It's on Steve's computer.
Oh. He needs to turn his audio. It's usually me. First item is I'm going to open a special meeting of the Board of Social Services. And we have Lindsay Maish here joining us. And, oh gosh, we've got the whole crew here with us. So Lindsay, please, the floor is yours. And welcome, everyone.
Hello, good to see you all. Thank you for having us. My name is Lindsay Maish. I'm the Director of Human Services for Pitkin County. And we're here today to provide our second quarter Board of Social Services report. Excuse me, a little frog in my throat. So today, the Board of County Commissioners serves as the Board of Social Services to review Human Services 2022 second quarter expenditures and client payrolls. And then, of course, we often like to do a variety of departmental updates. Today, specifically, we're going to be talking around our Human Services strategic plan and specific updates in those areas. Colorado is a state supervised, county administered human services team. The Colorado Department of Human Services is responsible for all activities provided by local and district human services departments and all allocations and expenditures that are related to those services. Here in Pitkin County, human services functions are primarily performed by us, by the Human Services Division. However, we do have some contracts that exist, and just to remind you of those are to assist our small county in managing some of the mandated services to serve Pitkin County residents. And those include Garfield County Human Services provides child support services and long-term care support for us. Eagle County is assisting currently with mandated services for veteran services, while Pitkin County continues to recruit and seek additional information in informing the functions of that position. And additionally, Pitkin County has now entered into an agreement with La Plata County to assist in eligibility services, and that's captured in overtime work and services completely funded by La Plata County. Some other mandated services that are provided through contracts or intergovernmental agreements or IGAs include our LEAP eligibility determination, which is provided by Goodwill, and our child and adult protection hotline services are provided statewide by Prowers County. Today, the board is going to be looking at the second quarter of 2022. Excuse me. Human Services program allocations follow the state fiscal year of July 21 to July 22. The closeout payout is for the state fiscal year. It includes covering costs from 6 months from the previous year, and that can sometimes make it appear in the calendar year report that we've received more revenue than expenditures because the budget is allocation and not the actual cost. So this doesn't necessarily mean that Human Services is receiving more revenue than expenditures, but it can sometimes appear that way. The Board of Social Services will review and approve today the second quarter, April to June of 2022 budget expenditure report and payrolls. And then, as I said earlier, we're going to later look at some of our Human Services strategic plan updates as well. So as a reminder of some of the functions of Human Services, we have our Economic Assistance Department, which is responsible for eligibility for all assistance programs. We have the Healthy Community Fund, which is a mill levy tax, $3 million that goes towards social safety net to local nonprofits. We have Protective Services, which is both prevention and intervention for children, families, and adults. Senior Services, which focuses on nutrition, meals, programming, and advocacy. And then Veteran Services, which are assistance with claims and resources for our local veterans. Next slide. All right, and now I'll hand it over to, let's see, is this Audrey's slide? This looks like Audrey's slide.
It is. Is there a slide that actually has the budget versus actuals that I could go over first?
We're gonna do that
Or are we
last
gonna do-
today.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll go
Perfect.
through all the programmatic stuff first, and then we'll look at the whole budget.
Sure. So this slide is actually going over our total expenditures by quarter, which is what the board needs to approve on. And it's just giving an overall snapshot of where we are from quarter 1 to quarter 2 today. And this is basically what we need to have the approval on. Lindsay, would you like me to go over some of the notes at this time? I do have some notes for our programmatic expenditures. Overall total programs at the end of the second quarter 2022, human services expenditures are at 45%, which is right on track for our budget for this time of year. Program revenues are at 54%, resulting in a continued slightly surplus position from the first quarter. As Lindsay mentioned, while this reporting covers the calendar year, Human Services is actually budgeted to the state fiscal year, which is July through June, based on our funding allocations from the state. And she mentioned as well, it can make our revenues appear slightly higher than expenditures. We just went through our state fiscal year 22 closeout. Human Services has just completed the process. And as anticipated, we were covered in all of our program areas with the exception of administration economic assistance, which is very typical. It was overspent very similarly to our last state fiscal year. And from the county's point of view, Human Services has already accounted and budgeted for that slightly shortfall that we were expecting to have. TANF, which is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. All of those, just as a reminder, I like to say this each time we meet because it is one of our quirky accounting staff salaries they're fully budgeted in the Human Services Fund. However, we do not allocate out salaries and benefits to each program area. The budget for TANF salaries and benefits are actually included in the administration and economic assistance areas, but the actual costs are charged to our TANF block through the state. So for this reason, the TANF expenditures will show at a higher percentage than budgeted, and that will happen throughout the year. Childcare, Human Services continues to see that expenditures are low. We've actually moved away from the COVID taking children to care less often to actually having some facility staffing issues. Some facilities have closed. So the percentages of revenue and expenditures are actually similar to this time last year, just for a slightly different reason. Child support services, Garfield County actually manages these services for Pitkin County. And they have reported that case levels have been a little bit low so far this year, resulting in a little bit less case management expenditures. We've also got APS, which is our Adult Protection Services. They're trending slightly below average due to reduced time spent on APS case management needs, along with less training requirements that happened in the first quarter of this year. Overall, our budget versus actuals are right on track, and Human Services will continue to review and update the BOSS as the year progresses.
Okay, Lindsay.
And I'll open it to any questions if the board has any questions regarding these Q1 to Q2 expenditures.
So does the board have any questions? No. I think it's interesting, one of the points you made about childcare was that our childcare expenditures are low due to childcare facility staffing issues, which has been an issue for this board, looking at the potential probable building of new facilities without taking into consideration the need to make sure we have staffing for those facilities. I think the city of Aspen is expanding their position on their expenditure of childcare funds, which I really applaud them for doing, to looking at training and recruiting childcare providers and staffing for those childcare facilities. And that's going to be key for us to get those kids into childcare. So I appreciate that note that you made in your report. So I'm going to bring it back to the board. We do need a vote on this second quarter expenditures.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 second quarter expenditures for human services.
I'll second, but then I do just want to raise a comment. I'm feeling there's a gap of information coming to the board about childcare, and I don't know. I guess I'll look to John a little bit about how we might resolve that, if that's something that like Ashley's position can maybe do, or in collaboration with human services, because I feel like
In
we
general,
should be,
you mean?
Yeah, I feel like we should just be knowing
Yeah.
what's happening with the providers on a more regular basis. And I personally feel like we are sitting on this money that we should have mobilized a little more quickly as people are losing staff.
Yeah, so Ashley has been meeting with childcare providers, and we are getting ready to schedule actually her coming in for that update and kind of collection of some recommendations for this board to consider for spending those ARPA funds. And so she has been on that learning curve since she started, and really meeting with folks and trying to understand the system and what opportunities this board might want to consider. And so she is working through that now and getting ready to come back to you all.
Okay.
So.
Glad to hear
Thanks.
Perfect question, perfect
that. I
timing.
was thinking exactly the same thing, thinking, ARPA, what's going on?
What are we going to do with that money? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, and I should probably add that Greg was going to try. Apparently there's a wicked storm in Chile,
Sweet.
and so it's wiped out his internet connection, which we were afraid
Or
that
he's
might
skiing.
happen.
Or he's skiing.
He kind of looked like he was dressed in winter gear,
Yeah.
and he was in a very snowy background, so we're going to have an eyes on Greg somehow. Okay, so we are going to be moving along. All right, Lindsay, back to you.
I'm going to hand it over to Sam Lander-Casper to talk about the program payrolls year-to-date Q2.
Hey there, yep, I'm Sam Lander-Casper. I manage the Economic Assistance Department for Pitkin County. And what we're looking at here are the second quarter payrolls for 2022. And I just like to remind folks that the difference between the numbers that Audrey presents and the payrolls here are that these are direct benefits to our customers. So these pass through us and on to our customers and our providers. And we just like to check in each quarter with the Board of Social Services to look at the expenditures on these payrolls for each program that we have, and kind of call out some trends that we're seeing. So starting out, we have the Aid to the Needy Disabled program. That is a cash benefit program. It's got a very low income limit. You've probably heard me say this before. And it's a very difficult program to enroll on, so we regularly don't have very many people receiving assistance through this. The maximum income someone can have and qualify is just around $200. And then they also have to have a disability determination. So we don't typically see much utilization on this program. There are talks at the state about possibly getting some help around getting enrollment navigators, which might help increase utilization of this program, but we haven't seen any movement on that yet. I think Audrey covered our child care expenses really well and hit that right on the head there. And I would just add that Ashley Pearl did reach out to me this week, and we had a chat, so we were able to catch up on the child care assistance program and TANF programs to help her get a picture of how those might add to the conversation around childcare in Pitkin County. So that was a great meeting. We had the old age pension, which is a cash program as well. It's for older adults who are 60 years of age or older and have very low income. And what it does is it's basically a supplemental for folks who aren't receiving the full Social Security benefit. We will notice that this year those issuances are higher than previous years. That's not due to increased enrollment. It's mostly due to a slight increase in the benefit amount at the federal level, as well as a cost of living adjustment that was quite substantial this year to compensate for some inflation. We have the Low Income Energy Assistance Program, known as LEAP. That's a program that helps folks pay for it's really grown to encompass utilities in general. It used to just be heating and cooling costs. Now it also includes water. It can include some electrical. They've really expanded that program, and it's very helpful. And I think we're seeing that in increased issuance. Particularly in June, we saw a very large issuance amount, and that was going for folks who've been approved after the November initial application date. That program runs November through April. And then they will continue to issue as providers bill. But so we are seeing a higher utilization of that. We're also seeing the issuances increase due to the increased cost of utilities with inflation as well. Then we have the Colorado Works TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, which Audrey also touched on. Our issuance right now, direct payrolls, is pretty low. That's typically because we don't see many people who can qualify for that program due to the low income limits to enter that program. However, we are working with local providers to contract using those funds, which we are able to do as long as the contract serves the purpose of helping stabilize low-income families. So one way we've utilized that contracting option is we're working with the Aspen Youth Center to help provide additional staff during the summer to increase the number of slots available for their summer camp and after school programs. So we've done that 2 years in a row now, and we're going to continue to look at ways where we can contract those funds out to help reach those families.
Good idea.
Finally, we have the Food Assistance Program, or SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Those issuances continue to be quite high because during the public health emergency, they are continuing to issue the maximum benefit amount to all eligible participants in the program. So we are seeing a lot of money going out. It's about $70,000 to $72,000 a month right now. The thing we really are going to be looking towards is when they end that, which is probably going to coincide with the end of the public health emergency. But currently it is approved on a month-to-month basis, depending on Food and Nutrition Services at the federal level approving that. So we can only go 1 month at a time, letting people know that these max benefits will continue being approved. But the expectation is that it will last throughout the public health emergency.
Okay,
Are there any questions about any of these payrolls?
I know Kelly has a question, and then Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Could the contracts there to help stabilize low-income families, could they be used for things like translation services or like legal aid or something like that? Like I'm thinking about like evictions and just help with even like medical translations.
Yeah, we did write into. So we are also contracting with our Adult and Family Services team for their prevention specialists. So part of that was including fees for translation services. There's a lot of leeway in how these contracts can be used. Really, it comes down to coding, which can be quite complicated, but we do run each of these contracts by our counterparts at the state for them to have a look at and help us and make recommendations for how we can code it. So we can be pretty creative in how we use these funds as long as they're really meeting that goal of stabilizing households, making sure that children have a safe place to live. It really has to go towards people who have at least one citizen in the household whose income is under $75,000 a year. And I'm forgetting the third one right now.
It'll come to you.
Yeah, that's okay. I may do some brainstorming.
I was on vacation for
Family.
3 weeks. I've forgotten important things. I'm sorry. It's citizenship, income requirement, and
Children.
child under 18 in the home.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, well, I might start asking around to see and then touch base with you if there's some other creative ways to draw this down.
Yeah, we're happy to meet with folks to discuss, creative ways we can utilize these funds. So just as long as it meets those parameters.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Steve had something.
With the new farm bill just starting to be discussed now and information being collected by our congressman, are there any changes or suggestions you have for the food assistance part of the farm bill or should we just try to keep it the same as it has been?
Well, that's tough because I think right now the program is meeting a lot of need, but I don't think it's financially something that anybody can really consider for long term. I mean, the amount of expenditure is, more than doubled. So the reality is that the SNAP program helps folks supplement their food costs. So if I were to say something that would really help this program would be to increase the income limits and look at ways to get those folks who right now aren't really hitting their self-sufficiency levels for income, look at ways we could help get them even a minimum amount of benefits a month. Say it was $50, where they could use that to purchase some of the higher, items that they can't afford. Because it does make a big difference in food security if there's just even an additional little bit of help to help supplement, and also to help direct some of those funds specifically for food. Because what we see is folks, when the bills go up, the gas costs, transportation, all of those things, those are the first things to really mark in your budget, and food then typically becomes more of an afterthought. You see a decrease in quality and quantity because people really have to spend their money on shelter, transportation, childcare, things like that. So if I had one wish with the SNAP program, it would be that the income limits expanded to let more folks who are really below that self-sufficiency standard onto the program.
Well, in addition to that, Sam, that's a really, really good point and something we should, I know we were just asked for comments from Senator Bennett's office on the Farm Bill, is the fact that employers in many cases are upping the income so they can keep their employees in light of inflationary costs and the cost of food and gas and childcare and all those things. So I think now is the time for the U.S. Congress to really reevaluate that and say, maybe it's time to up that limit so that people we're not throwing people out of the program, we're keeping them in addition, bringing more people into the program who are in need of help. So I think that's a really simple point we should pass on to our senators, especially Senator Bennett's office, who reached out to us. Mm-hmm. So thanks. Any other questions for Sam? Sam, you do need a vote on approving these, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion, I have a
Second.
second. Did you have any other comments, Francie?
No.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, thank you. Thanks, Sam.
Great, thank you all. So this is a kind of broader view of the Human Services budget versus actuals. So it's going to break out all the things that we just discussed, but we wanted to show you the bigger picture of how all of these revenues and expenditures are looking in our budget. So we'll let you see that and ask if you have any questions.
This is the one that kind of always throws us off with the difference in annual, June to July or
Yep.
July to June and vice versa, first of the year to end of the year. So it makes it a little confusing, but I think we're getting a grip on that, Lindsay.
You and me both.
Okay, any questions from the board? Okay.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So regarding LEAP, is that on here? Did I miss that already? Sorry, I had this question, I forgot to ask it. But regarding LEAP, I understand that the registration is only from November to April, but wouldn't costs related to air conditioning also affect people?
Air conditioning.
Yep, and the way they compensate for that is that they issue a credit. So they take a look at your household income at a point in time, which actually aligns pretty well for a lot of our customers because November, people haven't gone back to work yet. So it's not looking at your annual income. It's looking at right now, what's your income. And then the formula they use assesses an amount based on your total annual energy expenditure. And the reason it's really the November to April is because initially it was really just for heating. You know, the program initially came out to make sure people had heat in their house during the winter. But they've adjusted their formula to calculate for a yearly amount that a household would be eligible for, and then they credit that to the account with the provider. So it goes, and they've actually started paying late or past due balances as well that don't even impact the amount that you're approved for. Let's say someone came in with a $300 past due amount on their heating bill. If they're determined eligible, LEAP can pay up to a certain amount of that past due balance and then look at that household circumstances and approve them for a credit that goes onto the account and pays down as the utilities are used.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. I appreciate that.
Thanks. Cool. Okay. So next, Lindsay.
All right. So now we're going to go through some program and then our strategic plan updates. But before we dig into some of the strategic plan updates, we're going to do a core services program plan update. We're needing a board chair's signature for this plan, and I'm going to let Matt speak to this a bit, but it's mostly around the plan for us to spend our core services allocation that we're given. So Matt, go ahead.
Thanks, Lindsay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matt McGough, and I manage our Adult and Family Services. I was wanting to explain and go over our core services program plan for the new fiscal year. Each year, the state of Colorado allocates money for each county to use for child welfare services. So these are services like mental health, substance abuse related, parenting support, and these are for families that may not have a funding source. So they may not have insurance or may not qualify for Medicaid. So we have ways to making sure that these families still have access to these needed services. So we did attach our plan to the packet this year. And it just outlines how we plan to use our allocated money for this year, which is close to $60,000 each year in Pitkin County. And like I said, these are for families who may be involved with the child welfare system, and they may be also in our prevention programs. So we do have a wide net that we can use as far as who's eligible for these services. And this year we submitted a plan that includes how we plan to contract with our local providers for mental health and substance use services, how we plan to use some of our staff time to go into homes and help families with life skills and support planning. And so that's the gist of, or the overview of what this plan is. And the state does ask that we get a signature from our Board of Social Services chair. And that's something that I can send over via DocuSign. But just wanted to go over that, see if there was any questions or anything else that would need to be clarified with that plan.
I do have one question because the memo says that I need to approve it as chair, so hopefully this board will help me approve that. I don't have a problem signing it. And that if you do send it by DocuSign, you need to run it, I think, to Julia Ely and Jeanette Jones before they allow me to sign anything. I have to abide by them or I'm in big trouble. So if the board approves, if you're recommending to the Board of Social Services to approve, then if they do that, then in turn I will be more than happy to sign.
Great.
So is that what you're recommending? You're recommending we approve this plan, Matt?
Yeah, I would recommend that. And like I said, if there's any questions or needed clarification on this plan, feel free to ask.
I think it was pretty clear, so thank you for that.
I approve.
Yeah.
Okay. So the board is giving me nods that, yeah, so if you want to go ahead and send that, best to do it through Jeanette and or Julia, probably through Jeanette, and then they'll DocuSign it on to me.
All
Then I-
right, I appreciate that. I'll make sure to include them.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, now we're going to go into our strategic plan updates. So what you'll see here are the different categories of our strategic plan. You may have been involved in providing some community input or engagement, but the areas of focus that we have in our strategic plan are around food, financial stability, safety, housing and homelessness, and our internal capacity building. So we're just going to be providing updates kind of where we're at along the way in some of these initiatives. So I'll hand it over to Sam again to talk about the food feasibility study.
Hey there. I think everyone will remember we came with Open Space and Trails and the Open Space and Trails Board a while back. I think it was maybe September of last year. Time's gone by quickly. And we had asked about looking at the Emma town site as a possible location for a food hub for the Upper Valley. And we had been instructed to go out and really do a feasibility study to see if the spot could possibly be utilized, not to determine yes or no, but really take a good look at the site and see if it could do what we were trying to do with a food hub, which was basically expand warehousing options for our food distributors up here, as well as create space for our agricultural producers in the area to store some of their goods, and then have a production kitchen that would allow us to prepare meals, whether to preserve or to deliver from that site, not really utilizing the site for much public on-site programming. Well, after that meeting, we decided we were actually reached out to by a company called New Venture Advisors, who specializes in food feasibility studies. They've done dozens of studies around the country, some in resort areas. And we met with them to discuss the possibility of doing a feasibility study for our site. We liked what they had to say, decided to move forward with that. And we also then, one of our partners, Lift Up, had also communicated with this group about doing a different feasibility study for themselves, which originally was going to look at the city market location in Carbondale. That location really didn't pan out, so we did decide to partner with Lift Up and some other partners on this project to really get a broader scope for the whole region. So while we were still contracting with them now to do the feasibility study for the Emma site, they're also going to be looking at the region as a whole, what the needs are, to really determine if the Emma site didn't work out, what would the need be for a food hub in this region? How would it look partnering with the Emma site if it were developed? So I think we're really getting a lot of bang for our buck here, partnering with some of our other nonprofit partners. And we are going to be doing a kickoff meeting with that group in the next couple of weeks to really start looking at how this is going to move forward. And we hope to have the information that you all had asked for within 6 months to come back and say, here's what they say about the Emma site, whether it could be used or could not be used, so that can be presented for further discussion.
Perfect. Any questions, Francie, please?
Yeah, hi Sam, thanks for that. I have a question about something that was recommended the last time we talked about this. There was a building somewhere in Willits, I think, that seemed like it would be appropriate, and I'm wondering if you guys have looked at that or if this new group will look at that. I think it was Willits or somewhere in Elgerbell.
Yeah, there was some land, I think, out by the Eagle County building, and I know that Gary and his team had reached out, and I think that, and Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that site is not exactly suitable at this time. I know there's discussions around how it's going to be used, but it is something that we will put on the radar of this group, New Venture Advisors, so that they're aware of it, so they can include it in their discussion of possible locations.
Okay, great, thank you.
Was that
There's going to be a kickoff meeting with the U.S. Forest Service for that space. I think this week, either this week or next week, Ashley Pearl is leading that and bringing together Eagle County representatives and Pitkin County representatives to look at that space and if there's any shared value around what that space would be used for.
I'm going to have John further clarify that.
Yeah, no, Lindsay's right, and there's also some other projects, and Francie, I'm not sure if that's what you might be referring to that Basalt has been involved with, but those are all options that Ashley has kind of been sussing out and would be part of that conversation that comes back.
Great, thanks.
And Sam, I noted too in the memo, with Lift Up looking at the potential space in the Human Health Services building, there was a concern about their hours of operation. I'm assuming that means their hours wouldn't coincide with the general operation hours of the building?
You want me to speak to that, Sam?
Sure, I can. It's up to you. Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
So one thing, when Lift Up initially applied to utilize that space in the Human Services building, where Recovery Resources had previously been located, we knew that we wanted that space to be dedicated towards food security in some way. They presented a business plan for us that really involved being open 1 day per week, and that's based off of their experience in their location in Aspen down past the parking ramp. And we came back and said we really had a different idea about how that would look. We want to make sure we're utilizing that space as best we can. And we had a meeting with them earlier this week to discuss that I think was pretty helpful. And we provided some survey information that we had showing that people in Pitkin County had said that, early evening times and mid-morning times were best for them. And so we thought that to start off, we would like to try to do 4 days a week, 4 hours a day, kind of peppering in those times. So a couple days a week where folks were able to come in the early evening from 3 to 7, and then a couple days where folks are able to come in over the lunch hour, so 10 to 2, that area, because that's what people had indicated to be best for them. And we're going to try that for, I believe, a period of 6 or 12 months to really see how that works for folks. But I think that's a good starting place for that.
Okay. The hardest part I found about the hours here in Aspen was whenever I, was able to do a nice bulk shopping on a special deal at the market, it was hard for me to get the product over to them because their hours of accepting food donations were so limited. I just couldn't get there during those hours, and they tell you you can't leave it out in front. So that's something else we might want to consider, because it's always nice when people want to donate that we really facilitate their ability to do so rather than make it really difficult.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's, I think, something that might work with it being in the Human Services building, that other partner organizations can help lend a hand there on maybe off hours, since we are staffed full-time over there.
That would be great
that could be something that could work out.
Yeah, that'd be great to take into consideration. I think we might have more people that, would be able to just swing by, drop something off, regardless of the minimal hours they have up here. So that'd be great to include that. Thank you. Okay, we got food covered.
All right, it's back to Sam again for financial stability and the Regional Financial Empowerment Center. So take it away, Sam.
No problem. So I think you all remember a few months ago, we asked for the board to provide a letter of support for the Financial Empowerment Center. And just briefly, the Financial Empowerment Center is a regional effort we're undertaking to create financial counseling services for free to people living in Eagle, Pitkin, and Garfield counties. And we're working with a group out of New York called the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund, so the CFE fund. And basically they provide a structured training program for us to help create this program. And we worked through phase 1, which is when we got that letter from you all to show that this regional effort had support from local government. And now we've moved into phase 2, which is really the process of assembling a regional advisory board, as well as subcommittees to help plan and develop how the program is going to look here in our area. And we are going to be doing a site visit with the CFE fund next week on Monday and Tuesday. which involves meetings with different local elected officials, the various committees that we have, some members of the public to help provide input, and really give the folks from that CFE fund the opportunity to look at our region and understand how this can work here, because they typically have been opening these financial empowerment centers in cities, so more densely populated municipal areas. So we're actually the first region and kind of rural region in the entire country to take this project on, which is great. It's gotten some recognition with the Financial Empowerment Center, the Colorado State Financial Empowerment Center in Denver. So we're just at this point, we're going to have this site visit, and then after that, we can really get the ball rolling with our various committees to help develop the programming, look at the fundraising, and really solidify how this program is going to look throughout the 3 counties, with the goal of being able to launch within the next 12 months or so. And the other nice thing of working with the CFE fund is that they will match up to $100,000 in funding to help get this program off the ground if we're able to get it up and running.
Questions from the board?
I had a little bit of a heart attack. I was like, oh my God, did I miss that meeting? But I just realized it's Monday, so look forward to being there with you.
Yeah, and I think it'll be great to have you there with the other commissioners. We've got Commissioner Jankowski from Garfield and Commissioner Scherer from Eagle County. So I think that'll be a really cool meeting to have everybody in the same room for the first time.
Good, thanks.
Okay. Don't want you to miss a meeting. You know, we have so few and far between.
Just drop
We'd hate
off
to
and
miss
then go
one. Yeah.
Glenwood.
This is not the organization that Barbara's involved with.
Barbara Freeman.
Yeah, it is. Okay, cool.
Okay, so moving to the next, which is Adult Protection Services. Sam, I think you're off the hook for a minute. We're going to turn to Matt, I believe.
Yes, that is correct. I wanted to just give a brief update to let you all know that Pitkin County is officially going to be a part of a statewide pilot for adult protection. They're calling it Alternative Response. And it's an exciting program to be a part of and help the state figure out how to implement. It's really designed to reduce some of the stigma that's involved when you get when you have an adult protection caseworker show up at your house, basically. We know that sometimes that can feel intrusive, and we know that sometimes it feels punitive. And so we're really trying to work with the state to implement a practice where it can be more family engaging, more supportive, where people feel like they can open up and work with us in a way where they don't feel that stigma or that need to be defensive about anything. And so this is a practice that resembles differential response in child welfare. And so I think we found in child welfare there's been a lot of success in trying to increase engagement with families due to an approach that makes them feel a little more safe in how they communicate with us, how they work with us. And so we're hopeful that our participation in this pilot will give a strong voice from our smaller county, and really our experiences from implementing this in child welfare, I think can be useful and some good information. And so participating in this practice will require some participation from myself and our staff in meetings and training and across the state over the next year. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that. We're excited about the potential for how this practice change may look and how that may benefit our adult protection services. Is there any questions or anything on that people would like to know more about?
Seeing none here. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, Lindsay, where are we going?
We're going to Veteran Services to do a quick update with Sam Landergasper again.
Hi, Sam.
Hey, sorry you guys are probably getting sick of me.
Never,
Not at
Sam,
all.
never.
So in June, we came to talk with the board about the Veteran Services Officer position because, since I've been here for 5 years, we've had 3 veteran services officers kind of come and go. A lot of that's related to the position being part-time. Folks will take the job and realize after some time that it just doesn't really, meet what they need for their employment. And so we had come back to ask about what we could do with this position to really stabilize it, to ensure that we are having regular representation for our veterans here in Pitkin County. And we presented 3 possible options that we had thought of. We receive a small amount of funding, around $9,500 a year from the state for these veteran services. And one of those options would be to really just use those funds to contract with another county to provide services. And these would be very basic, minimal mandated services, which are filing claims, helping get headstones, putting in for medals, things like that. Very basic level of service. The other issue with that we're finding is that won't be so easy anyway, because most of the veteran services officers around us are pretty maxed out as far as their time goes. They don't have a lot of bandwidth. Which would leave us looking at further out areas, which would make that assistance even less personal as we look at, you can imagine having a veteran services officer from Eastern Colorado trying to help a veteran here in Pitkin County. It would make the process even more difficult. We could leave it the same as one of the other options we presented with the funding that we currently have, which is at 21 hours per week. With the hope that maybe we would get lucky and find somebody who that really would fit their schedule and their needs. And another suggestion we had was to increase the position to 32 hours per week to add benefits to the position, which would then make the position a more livable wage, we thought, for folks. And you had asked us to reach out and engage with the veteran population and our partners to really understand better the needs that our veterans have. One of those needs is that we need to connect with them, because we know there's a large population of veterans in Pitkin County that we don't see. Most of the folks who make it into the Human Services building, that's really a small group of people. We have a contact list of about 40. So we know that there's a lot of need for engagement and outreach. The thing that we have to consider right now, though, is that we are going to have, since Eagle County can't really cover for us, they have been, and we really appreciate it, but it's really putting a strain on Pat Hammond and her assistant in Eagle County, and we haven't been able to find anyone to contract with. We are going to be relisting the position as it currently stands to see if we can get some applicants to get that position filled. We're also going to be reaching out to the state veteran services officer based out of based on the Western Slope in Grand Junction, to see if they could provide some coverage for those mandated services. Although I did just get an email from them saying that those hours are going to be reduced. So my guess is that they are possibly having some issues with staffing down there as well, but I'm going to be looking into that. So we just wanted to let you know that we are going to start the hiring process. We are going to continue reaching out to really gather that information about what the need is here in Pitkin County. And we will try to see if we could possibly contract with that state veteran services officer, which would then allow us a little more time to do the evaluation of the position and decide which direction we'd like to go.
Okay, comments from the board, questions? Steve, please.
One possibility I could see would be to have a position that the person could do a half-time, maybe a sort of a half-time position somewhere else in the county, and part-time as the veteran service officer. And I would kind of like that might entail creating another half-time position to keep them fully occupied, but it seems to me that would be a viable option if it were the right mix of the person's skills to be a veteran and be able to fill another position at the county.
I think that's a thought, but we're having a hard enough time just finding a veteran to do the veteran's job. I'd rather let Sam finish looking at needs, and then feel free to bring it back to us, Sam, when you have a better grip on that, and we can determine then whether or not we want to increase it to 32 hours with benefits. I think that might be a better way to, as long as we have something for a veteran services person to do, I think it would be appropriate to look in that direction myself, but I think we need to get somebody in there. Any other thoughts from the board? Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be open for staff to consider what Steve has thrown out, if there's something that's a good fit. It seems creative. I don't want to just close that off, but, either path I think works. It sounds like we're going to be facing a point where we have to hire this person pretty quickly.
Yeah, I just, I'm concerned about creating another, which technically would be a full-time position if Steve's looking at half and a half. So we need to think about that. Maybe, I think maybe going to 32 hours with benefits might.
I just don't know, the increment between 32 hours with benefits and 40 hours with benefits, I'm not sure is that.
Yeah, well,
Much of a jump.
for me, it's another full-time position.
Yeah, but now you're getting 8 extra hours for less of the, you've already made the commitment to pay the
It's
bigger
that
premium.
FTE, it's just that word,
Yeah.
FTE, that bothers me.
Benefits is what adds on there.
I like that word. We need some
But-
FTEs.
We need some people in our current FTEs.
Yes,
Not to add
exactly.
more FTEs.
Well,
Yeah,
if we
so-
gave him
so
a
s-
half-time somewhere else, him or her, then maybe that FTE could become half.
Sam, you got it?
Just move forward, like we said.
We'll figure something out.
And it's so nice to see you, Sam. The bigger question is, Sam, do you really play those guitars behind you?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to plug it in right now.
Okay, good. Darn. Thought we could get a little entertainment on the side. All right, Lindsay, we've got a few more minutes here to finish up. So we're on the Healthy Community Fund. Looks like we've got some challenges ahead there.
I'm gonna skip around a little bit. So because it's a good segue from Sam's presentation, Veteran Services Officer, what I'm gonna talk about is our Human Services reorganization recommendations. I know in one of the past meetings while I was gone, I think you all asked about this, like what's happening? Is there a deputy or what's going on over there? And I can tell you we've been very busy. We did contract with Human Services Innovations LLC, who is John Doherty, you may have heard of him, to do a really comprehensive assessment and recommendation for our current structure. And the way that came about was the change in leadership. There were some requests internally for us to look at our current structure and see if there were ways for us to just be more effective as a division. Through that, what we found was, and this was really through, you can see the scope of work there in the AIS, but what we found through the process was that we have 3 kind of main areas that we need to focus on or have outcomes around, which were cross-divisional depth of bench and removing silos interdepartmentally. So between economic assistance, between adult and family services, between senior services. These are very specific departments with not great cross-divisional depth of bench. Another thing was just the ability to have more professional development within the division. There's not a lot of stair-stepping or opportunity currently, so we've been looking at that. And then lastly, and I think most importantly, is our accessibility to the community, specifically around the Latino population and how we're reaching people who are undocumented. But that's not just to say for that area. We're looking really to be more accessible in general and to be in the community more. So I say that it's a good segue from the Veteran Services Officer. I was laughing because, I think Sam said we get around $9,000 for a mandated service, which almost feels like an unfunded mandate. It's pretty close to that. And there's plenty of work for that individual based on our reorganization proposal to really be more accessible and to be able to engage populations in our community, especially the veterans, to be able to understand what's available to them and to get connected in our community. They really offered these recommendations offer a functional approach to the restructure in our department. We've already presented to the administrative team and we're kind of waiting. We're going back and forth. There are some organizational thoughts around how to structure, mainly around just kind of like titles and classes and things like that. We're not going to get into the depths of that, but just wanted to provide you all with that update and that we're moving along. We don't have a timeline at this point, but we are hopeful that for budget season we're able to start to move some of the positions to be able to reach some of these outcomes that I just spoke to. So I'll pause there. Any questions?
Just so you know, restructuring is another one of my favorite words.
Oh, like FTE.
Yeah, we got it.
And there are a few of them going on
I know.
post-pandemic.
John and I have been
just to the
talking
new
about
world.
restructuring. So, yeah, sometimes we just need to restructure. So does the board have any questions on this? I think you're moving in the right direction, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about it in the near future.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if it gives you any peace of mind, Patty, but our restructure doesn't actually change FTE count. So I know that also can be tough, except for that veteran services officer. So we're still looking into that one. But
that could only be a half a FTE, so we're doing good. Okay.
You know, it might be okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, so let me leap into the Healthy Community Fund. Just wanted to bring to your attention some trends that we're seeing. We've opened and closed the applications. That period was closed on August 1st. And just after our initial review, we haven't really dug too deeply into it because we just closed those applications. But 2022 is going to be a record-breaking year for us with the Healthy Community Fund. We will have more applicants than we've ever had. We currently have around 40 organizations that have partner organizations. They're partner organizations, so they have a 3-year contract. And we have around 40 organizations that have applied. Of those, about 5 new, which is just in my short tenure, that's the most that we've ever had of new organizations, and some with really big requests. Like requests over $200,000. So it's going to be a tough year for us. What we're doing right now is we're currently working internally around creating a guide for the scoring process. And that's really to help, and we're working in partnership with public health to better align some of the scoring around our strategic plans in both of our divisions. We're hoping that the guide is going to include specific thresholds to fund given the priorities of Pitkin County. You know, it's still pretty visionary right now, so as the process becomes more concrete, we'll come back to you and give you updates along the way. But we just wanted to give you that just let you know that it's going to be a tricky year for the Healthy Community Fund, depending on what we see in the fund. We haven't gotten those numbers yet, but when we do, we'll have to be strategic.
Yeah, and the community grant, the fund, the committee does an amazing job of vetting that thoroughly, so before they bring back recommendations, which is always much appreciated. Okay.
Absolutely.
I just have a question for you, Lindsay. We haven't heard from Chad, so before we close, Chad, we want you to know we see you there and we appreciate all you do. Is there anything you would like to add quickly?
We're rocking and rolling. We did an assessment a couple months before the whole division did. It was attached. We're diving right into it starting this week around some action steps. And we should all celebrate aging. That's all I gotta say.
Because you know what? We're all getting there. Some of us seemingly quicker than others. Okay. Lindsay, back to you. Anything else before we close?
The rest is in the AIS. I think the last thing was at our last BOSS, we talked, at the emergency ordinance approval of the emergency winter shelter in the Health and Human Services building. After that meeting, I think it was Kelly that you said, have we engaged the community? And I was, as a new director, thinking, oh my goodness, we need to do that. So thank you for that recommendation. We are going to be having a neighborhood meeting in September. That's scheduled September 21st in the evening, and it's going to include the homeowners associations of Meadowood and then the surrounding area, the Aspen Valley Hospital and some of the other neighborhoods here. And we'll bring leadership to that meeting. And really the intention of the meeting is to just share the details of what that's going to look like of this scope and to address any concerns that might be coming up.
Okay. Let us know how that meeting goes. It should be interesting. Okay. So if that is enough, we're done. You've covered everything. Okay, I'm going to adjourn our special meeting as the Board of Social Services.
You don't need a motion.
I technically don't need a motion, I think, since I can open and close it all on my own. But y'all do. I want to thank you guys. It's good to see you all, and you guys do a great job out there, and we truly appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving right into our next item, which is an item of interest. I noted that Eagle County just opted out.
I think it was the town of Eagle, actually.
Was it the town?
I'll have to go check, but one of them named
Something with the
Eagle
word
did.
Eagle in
Yes.
it. Opted out. Do we know where Eagle County is?
No, I do not know where they are. Did you know where some other local?
City of Aspen, have they made a decision?
They've opted out,
Okay. Snowmass?
opted out.
Basalt?
Don't know that one yet.
We're going
I'll go
back.
down. That's about where I end.
Call your
Out
husband.
of what? What do you?
Out of going with the
this-
state's
am I speaking to
mandated program for medical leave, which she's going to tell us about right now. And I think we have, Brett is online, I believe.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. This was interesting reading.
Well, thank you.
I think
was
I know
thanks
where
to
I'm
Brett.
going, actually.
All right. Am I good to go?
You are good to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. My name's Melissa Knight. I'm the Director of HR for Pitkin County, and I will let Brett introduce himself.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Brett Bergman, Risk Manager for Pitkin County.
So Brett is fairly new, started about 2.5 months ago with us. So just so you all know, leave management is under the risk portion of human resources. So Brett and his team do manage all the leaves for Pitkin County. So today we're here to talk about family, which is the family and medical leave insurance for the state of Colorado. So in November of 2020, Colorado approved Proposition 118 to create a state-run paid family and medical leave insurance program. So the program actually begins on January 1st of 2023, and then employees will be eligible to actually start taking leave January 1st of 2024. So 2023 will be a collection year for funds to come in to actually fund the program moving forward. So Brett's going to take you through the high-level overview of, what this means, what Pitkin County currently offers our employees, the financial impacts on both employees and Pitkin County, the employer, and some recommended next steps. So basically, at the end of this conversation, we would love direction from you all on whether you would like to participate in the family program, decline participation for the family program, and whether we should explore expanding additional paid leave benefits to sort of expand where, where our employees are in terms of paid leave. So Brett will take you through those details.
Thanks, Melissa. I think that was a great background on what family is and the requirements of the board to decide whether the county will be opting out by January 1st of 2023. So what is the county's responsibility? The county would, if we decide to opt in, would need to withhold premiums from employee paychecks. or decide to pay for 100% of the benefit. The rate for the premiums is set at 0.9% of employee salaries. If county were to opt in and do the traditional 50-50% split, it would cost employees on average $477 a year for this premium. And then the benefit that's provided to the employees is leave at up to $1,100 of paid benefit per week. Family is concurrent with FMLA and has similar requirements that it is leave for self-care, care for parent, spouse, child, or care for the birth of a child or placement for adoption or foster child. The definition that family uses for family member is broader than FMLA, and so that would also be a budgetary consideration. Pitkin County's current leave program, for the most part, is more robust than what family provides. So the county currently offers short-term disability and parental leave that's concurrent with FMLA, and it's for serious health condition for an employee, health condition for a spouse, child, or parent, parental leave, and military leave. However, the county does not provide equal pay benefits across all these leave types. So for an employee with 1 to 4 years of service at the county, they receive 60% of their pay if they're on leave for a condition which makes them unable to perform their job. If they've been at the county for 5 years or more, that increases to 75%. If an employee's out taking care of an aging parent, a spouse with a medical condition, or a child, they're covered under FMLA, but the county does not provide them with any paid leave benefits. And then the county does provide 12 weeks of paid parental leave at 100% of the employee's salary. So from a standpoint of the cost to the county, discussed that it would be about $477 per year for the average employee based on the county's average hourly rate of $51. The cost for the county, if it were to provide family at 50%, would be $170,000 a year roughly, and $340,000 if the county determined to provide 100% of this benefit. In 2021, the county had 23 FMLA short-term disability parental leave cases, and the cost to the county was $136,000. So moving to family would be a significant increase in cost to the county while providing a reduced benefit to employees. The county's average benefit to employees is roughly $1,377 with weekly benefit and a maximum benefit of $1,500 per week.
Can I ask for a quick clarification?
Kelly has a question, Brett.
Yeah, I want to go back to that, the 23 FMLA cases, and
yeah,
I guess I don't understand the conclusion of how family would provide a reduced benefit to the employee in that situation when FMLA just means we won't fire them, not actually provide a benefit for that.
Sure. So it would be an increased benefit for care of a spouse, child, or parent. Mm-hmm. However, it would be a decreased benefit for if the employee was out for an injury or medical condition for themselves.
Because what family covers is not the equivalent of either 60 or 75% of short-term disability pay.
Right. It ranges between 20% and 90% per family, but looking more specifically into wages at the county, most employees would make 80% or less of their benefit through family.
Mm-hmm.
So
there is a cap at $1,100 per
so it
week.
wouldn't go to 15.
Right.
You go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, Francie, go, because mine's a broader point.
Well, we discussed this quite extensively at the last RAFTA meeting, and we did opt out for the first year because we thought we would see how it goes. So my understanding, forgive me if you said this, I didn't hear it, but my understanding is that we have to pay into it, and so do the employees, for a year before there's any benefits allowed. So we'd be paying in for all of 2023, and then if there was an accident or a person had a baby or something like that, they'd be out of luck under that program until the next year. So I do think that is, I don't know how many entities are going to opt out this first year. I don't know whether it's going to be a successful funding year or not for the state because of that. I mean, I understand that it's a funding year, but so that was definitely a turnoff for RAFTA.
Couldn't we still continue to offer our programs for that funding year?
We could. Our current program.
They wouldn't be out.
And then we'd have more expenses if we did that, correct? We'd have our own plus the,
What the employees
what's it called,
were paying now.
FAMLI?
FMLA.
That's the federal.
That's the federal, yeah.
I would note for the board too, while we're making this decision, I think you need to relate the staff recommendations for the potential to expand our benefits programs, which I think was kind of the question you're getting at, Kelly, when you're asking about how is that really an enhancement. So you'll want to put, you'll want to put all of this together before the end of the day.
Before the end of the day.
Before the
end of this item.
2:30.
Yeah. In the next 20 minutes.
I had an hour. It's only half an hour. Okay, we better talk fast. My point was going to be when we brought up the parental leave, maternity parental leave, I was very clear I was supporting it only if we brought back, Mr. Peacock will remember this, a family medical leave coverage of some level. Maybe not 12 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. We never brought that back, so this is a time for us to have that discussion. And I am supportive of that still. I think that that is fair to employees that either children are already come and gone or do not plan to have children. And for many who are getting older, as their parents are and their spouses are, I think that is something we need to be looking at providing. And I think we could be able to do that within our own programs and still not be spending as much money as we would be paying to the state. And I also have a hard time at this time, even though it's only it's less than $500 a year, for some people that still hits to try and have that taken out of their salaries.
Yeah, but a benefit, just from the employer perspective, these are portable benefits, you know? So them paying into family means if they leave Pitkin County,
they can
they
take that
still
with
have that.
But I'm
money
still
in
saying
time.
they have to pay into it, whereas right now they don't have to pay into it, right?
It's 0.45% of their pay, which amounts to, depending on how much money you make, of course, more or less, but it's not a ton. I mean, I think, as I understand it, the employee puts in 0.45% and we put in 0.45%, so it comes to just under 1%.
Yeah, but still, we don't ask people to do that if they're gonna have a baby. We pay for it. And I think that's something I wanted us to consider when we approved the Parental Leave Act for the county. I thought that it only made sense and was only fair and equitable to broaden that, to provide some kind of coverage for people whose, as I said, whose children were grown or weren't gonna have children. And so I think I would like to consider that. I would like to consider opting out and enhancing our own program within some parameters, which would be a broader discussion.
I kind of think that this program is not intended so much for organizations like ours that have pretty robust benefits. It's more for things like Fat Belly or other companies that don't
have any
provide
options.
benefits and can't afford to provide benefits. This is a way for smaller companies or maybe even smaller governmental institutions that can't afford to provide
I totally agree.
benefits. So I would support opting out as well and then enhancing what we offer, which is already pretty generous.
But I think as an issue of fairness, we should be looking at some kind of family leave benefit. Because I know we have.
And I don't get the 5-year vesting for the short-term disability either.
Means don't get hurt within 5 years.
No, like the 60% versus 75%. Like
Yeah.
a 60% short-term disability, that's rough. Like not, like, you know.
Is that livable?
No.
Yeah.
But you can also get regular disability. This would be in addition to your disability.
Well, this is short-term disability provided by the organization, which we took in-house last year because we used to outsource it to an organization. So what we did was we mimicked the plan that Cigna had originally put in place for Pitkin County. And it is typical to have that income replacement lower because the point is to, ensure people have some sort of coverage to cover their monthly bills and then, return to work when they're able. So there are stipulations and
No, but
boundaries.
there's nothing inherent about the benefit, right? So like, if you
Yes.
accidentally get in a car accident, in your 4th year of employment, as opposed to your 6th year of employment, like to me, there's no nexus there of
Right.
why you would rely on a greater income
Yeah.
replacement,
Rather than just a 180-day vesting.
Right.
Establish
I
yourself
don't
as an
know.
employee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that would be a conversation that, I think opting out is the imminent conversation we need to have. And long-term, please bring it back sooner than later, because I wanted to bring it back sooner than later. Now it's here.
I promise.
Forgive me if you said this too. I was a little spaced out at the beginning because I just went through it with RAFTA. But it's my understanding that if we opt out as an organization, any employee can still opt in.
Correct.
Yeah.
On top of what they would get here.
Yes.
So if they wanted to, and we would process the deductions from their salary and
Well, so they would be able to opt in, but they would be responsible for handling all of that with the state. Yeah, we wouldn't do it through our payroll.
So it would be a
system.
post-tax contribution that they would make.
right after they got paid by us,
Yeah, yep.
the money would go out from them.
But so
Interesting. I
so
didn't
it's not
realize
like
that.
we're withholding it from all of our employees by opting out. They can opt in.
That's a good point. I didn't realize that they still
Yeah,
had
it's
that
not as
opportunity.
favorable because of the pre-tax versus post-tax.
But it's still an option for them
It's still an
to
option,
have
yeah.
double coverage. Because we wouldn't take away their coverage through here if they opted into the state
Right.
program.
I mean, our benefit here is much richer, so I don't see why an employee would want to.
Unless they want a double coverage. They wanted coverage through us as their employer, and they wanted a,
Through the
they
state.
could do both, right?
I mean,
It's a good
technically,
question.
no, they can't
Yeah.
double dip, but we would maybe not have control over that because, I mean, it's still a gray area, but with the state, they are still setting up the whole administration process of it. So I think they're going to be learning a lot in the next 18 months.
This is something that's going to be figured out as it moves forward. After people have already opted into both.
Right. And because I don't know how we would know if,
Yeah.
an employee.
Technically, you wouldn't. It'd be
But I
up to
mean, you
them.
paid for it, so you should be entitled to it, no matter what.
And it would be transferable, so if you moved to a different employer, you'd still have it, whereas ours wouldn't. So
That's
you know,
right.
for some people who are accident prone, they may want to look at it.
Or they're like, I can only stand to work here a couple more months.
It's a great place to work.
There are no people like that in Pitkin County, of course, but
That's in other businesses. Like Fat Billy.
yeah, right.
You use it as an
We have,
example.
where our turnover is a little more frequent than Pitkin County's.
Okay, so Steve, since you're sitting at the table and we're hogging it up on this side.
Yeah, I mean, we have a great program, and I was just wondering if we added the parts that we don't cover now, what would the additional cost be to the county or to the employee to make it more comprehensive than we are now?
So Brett, I believe you told me 2021 numbers for FMLA, 80% were parental leave and 20% were to take care of a family member or
So
an employee.
it was around about 2/3 was self-care,
2/3.
um,
Okay.
and then 1/3 for parental leave and 1/3 for care for parent or spouse.
Okay.
That's 1 1/3.
Yeah. The last third.
Spouse and parent being combined, caring for a family member, that's 1/3.
Okay.
1/3 self, 1/3 parental, and 1/3 family spouse.
Great.
So
So
you said 2/3 for self-care.
2/3 for self-care, but that includes pregnancy?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, family, this program's awesome for Colorado, you know, really. I think I'm so
Oh, yeah.
grateful that the voters passed this. I think our whole board supported it at the time. I guess I would just see, for me, in comparison, you know, the limitations of our current program seem to be that, that short-term disability repayment sort of inequity. And then the ability to care for family, you know. To me, FMLA is not a benefit. It's worker protection, you know, it's, so I don't really consider it as a benefit. Like, we don't fire you. So to me, it's not a benefit. So I would see that those would be the areas where we could tighten up to be more aligned with what the family program has accomplished, so that you can care for a family member without any payment replacement or paycheck replacement. I don't know.
So I remember when we were working to get the Family Act, try to move it forward at a state level, and it seems odd that now we decide to opt out of something that we worked for. But we were working for all the people in the state, not just our county employees, of course, and we were doing that.
So,
If we can provide our employees with something better than the Family Act provides, then our conscience is clear, and
Yeah, it
we
really
are
is
good
for
to
like the
opt out of it if we can
constituency,
do that.
you know, can take advantage of the family.
yeah, not just for our own employees. Definitely not just for our own employees. Brett, I see your hands up. Did you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get back and answer Steve's question on what would be the cost if we expanded those benefits. And Melissa may be able to speak to this better, but we budget at 100% of employees' salaries, anticipating that they don't go out on leave. And so paying them while they are out would not be a change to the county's budget.
Well, and that's why it bothers me that we only do short-term disability replacement at such a low level. I mean, I could speak to this very personally, because when I was pregnant working for the county, you know, and then on maternity leave, relied on the short-term disability benefit at 60%. I had the luxury of knowing I was going to be on short-term disability. So I could plan and save, because when you're pregnant, you get to do that. But somebody who, it was still tough, you know, and somebody who has an accident, like, they don't have that benefit of planning. So it's almost like we're recouping a savings for the county on the hardship of an employee. And I just don't think we need to do that personally, but we can talk about that more.
Yeah, my question then, I think I'm hearing from the board, we're going to opt out at this point in time. And who knows, in a couple years, it's not a forever opt-out, right?
It doesn't have to be.
Okay. Right. And then I think I'm hearing that we would like to see staff come back with the budget process possibly.
Yeah, and we're actually looking at those options now with overall benefits. We'll be coming back to the board, I think, with several recommendations around our benefits package. This being one of them, particularly with the direction it seems like we're getting today.
Is that where the board would like to see this go? Have it come
Sounds
back
good.
for broader discussion?
Yeah, I just wonder if there, maybe from the insurance administrator, if there will be some information we can provide to employees who might choose to opt in on their own to them.
Yes. Yep. The state has a website with all the information. So yes, and we will, once the decision is solidified, we do have to let employees know within 30 days of the decision.
I couldn't hear any of that, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. We have to let employees know within 30 days of the decision if you all choose to opt out. And then the state has a great website that has all kinds of information.
For employees who may want to consider opting in on
Yep.
their own.
But we did decide to opt out, right?
Yes.
So I think we, though, will need to take a formal action probably in a regular meeting. I guess we might want to check on that to have a resolution of the board.
Yeah, just
I
let us
think it
know
can
when
be
you
an
want it to come
informal
back.
resolution.
We have till the end of this year.
Correct.
Yes.
And we needed to know, this will allow us to plan from a budget perspective as well as to plan for benefit recommendations. So we can I believe just bring back a one-read resolution for the board to execute
Whatever
this
works,
during a
we're
regular
ready to do
meeting.
it.
And we can plan pursuant
Don't
to
put it
this
on the
direction.
24th, I've closed that agenda. Okay,
Okay.
I think you got it. Brett, nice to have you come before us.
Nice to meet you.
For those who haven't seen him, he is in the office on occasion. I have seen him. So he is here in person, and we appreciate that. All right.
Thanks
thank
for having
you.
me.
Thank you. So we have, I believe,
I'm gonna make my husband sign up for family.
yeah,
Right.
we have, I believe, a break, but we have Barry Ramberg, correct? Here, do you guys want to just go ahead and do this interview? All right. Do we need anybody here, John, to assist us with this? It's Board of Health. Were we expecting anyone?
Charlotte?
Yeah, no, typically we'd have our liaison from the health department, which would either be Suzuho or Jordana, but I believe Jordana's out right now.
So
So-
I think we can handle this.
I think you can do it.
We got you here.
I don't know if
so,
that's good.
Abari, welcome. This is we're going to move you right in since you were here in such a timely manner. And
Great.
what we usually do is I'll ask you, I'll kind of introduce you, and then I'll give you some time to introduce yourself and any information you'd like us to have in considering you for our Board of Health position. And then I'll open it up to the board to ask you questions. And then we do have one other candidate coming forward, but we do have a full-time position and an alternate position available on the board. And as of right now, we have 2 candidates seeking to be part of the Board of Health. So please, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words?
Okay, I'm Barry Ramberg. I am an RN. I was a trauma nurse here in Los Angeles, where I am right now, but I'm coming back to Aspen tomorrow. I live there full time. I have many years of experience in healthcare. And then when the pandemic hit, I decided it was time for me to do something. And I found a lot of interest in public health, where I actually initiated bringing testing to the school first. And then I helped bring testing to the whole town. And I was the first one to bring the testing into the school. And we tested all the children every week and all the staff every week. And then after that, I was on the front line of standing at the tent every day and vaccinating many, many Pitkin County residents. And that's where my love of public health sort of was born. And now I'd like to stay involved and get more involved and become a member of the Board of Health.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Actually, I think I do remember seeing you at one of those vaccination centers. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time to help us out. So I'm going to turn it to the board. Francie.
Yeah, it sounds like you're the perfect person for this position, and I really appreciate your volunteering to do it. During the pandemic, it was a pretty big job.
Sorry.
Hopefully, it won't have to be that big in the future. At
Right,
least not
and
for quite a
incidentally, I
while.
met with I became very friendly with the Colorado Board of Health and all the members of the Colorado Board of Health, and Jordana and Suzuho and sort of Krista Geisel, and it was amazing. And Jeannie Siebold.
Yeah, it was Herculean at that time, but anyway, it sounds like you bring a lot to the board, and I appreciate your volunteerism.
It was my pleasure.
Kelly, please.
Yeah, hi. Very nice to meet you. Thank you
too.
for applying. I think I have 2 questions. So, my first question is, what public health issues facing Pitkin County interest you the most, moving past pandemic mentality?
Sure.
And then, do you have any experience working with underserved communities?
So, yes, I have experience. I worked in Inglewood in California, which is primarily underserved communities. I worked there for many years and have a lot of experience with that. Have experience with the differences in what the perception of what healthcare can provide. So that was a big interest of mine, even when I was young and starting out. And my primary goal in Aspen was to have everybody on the same level playing field. I mean, we wanted to bring testing to everyone, not just, people who could pay for it. We brought it completely free. No one had to show like a Blue Cross card or any kind of insurance information. We just tested, and we made it accessible to everyone. So I would like to continue to have that kind of atmosphere in Pitkin County, not just, insured or, people who have the means to get health care. It's really just for everyone.
Thank you.
And I think my doing that showed. I mean, I would never just want to be in healthcare for, one type of person. It should be for all.
Well, I can just comment that trauma care at Cedars would have been interesting. I did trauma care at emergency room in Arcadia, and it was
there you go.
it wasn't nearly as exciting as I'm sure the trauma care that you got to do.
Let's just say I've seen everything.
Yeah, I bet you have. All right, Steve.
Well, sorry, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
And then my second question, sorry, what are the topics most interesting to you in public health in Pitkin County?
Outside of the pandemic.
Outside of the pandemic.
I think preventative care outside of the pandemic. I think preventative care. I think like everyone deserves, annual checkups. I think all kids should have access to, annual checkups. And I think just going out and making sure people in more rural communities than we are have access to all the healthcare that you might get closer to a city or closer to a hospital. Because many people don't even have access to a primary care physician. Mm-hmm. So primary care would be my goal for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, please.
So Barry, on your resume, it shows that from 2020 until current day, there's a gap in what you were doing as a nurse, but you did fill us in on some of your activities. So I just am curious how you've been staying current on medical issues. Do you read different newsletters and things? Have you actually been working as a nurse during the last 20 years, aside from during the pandemic? Just want to fill in that 20-year gap.
Yeah, well, I had 2 children. That was more than a nurse. I brought them up, got them, shipped off to college. And it's funny because my son is a Roaring Fork firefighter.
Oh.
Right now. His name is Owen Ramberg, and he works for Roaring Fork, and he also just got a job with Aspen Ambulance. He's an EMT, and he is applying to medical school.
Good for him. Congrats.
Yeah. So I worked on getting my kids to give back to the community, and then the pandemic hit, and of course I got very involved during the pandemic, as you know. And, during those 20 years, I was a mom, which is a full-time job too.
Okay.
So
thanks for applying, and I think you could be a good addition to the Board of Health. We're always looking for, people with some medical background. I think is important, but it's not the entire picture. And just your experience helping out in the pandemic, I think, speaks highly for where you're coming from.
Yeah, and also I read a ton. That was one of your questions. I do read a lot. So.
Okay, Barry,
I read a lot of medical journals.
I've got Charlotte. I've got Charlotte here in the room. So I'm correct. We have one other candidate, and that's it. We have 2 openings.
We do. We have one other candidate, and she will be interviewed on September 6th.
Okay.
And we have the at-large vacancy and the alternate at-large
Perfect.
vacancy.
And the application period is closed?
It is.
Okay. So that means after we interview the second candidate and make a decision, we will be getting back to you. And we do have the 2 vacancies open, and we have 2 candidates. So you will be hearing from us sometime after September 6th.
That is great. I look forward to it. It was a pleasure meeting you all.
And travel safe on your way back.
Yep, tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Barry.
Okay, board, we can continue or we can take a break.
We could do a 5-minute break.
Okay, grassroots, we're gonna take 5 minutes. Welcome back. This is the Pitkin County Board of County Commissioners work session for Tuesday, August the 16th, 2022. And we are moving well through our agenda. The next item is our future agenda calendars that we're going to discuss. Mr. Peacock.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. Just a few things to note for the board. Mind Springs has hired a new CEO, and they have reached out to schedule a time for that individual to do an introduction and Q&A with the board. So if the board is open to that, we will go ahead and work with Mind Springs to schedule a time during a future work session. We don't have any specific dates right now.
I think we should definitely do that.
Yeah, I do too.
Does it make sense to have our public health staff participating in that meeting in order so
That's
we
a
can
good
sort of
idea,
align
Kevin.
like what Mind Springs roles are and what other partners' roles are?
Yeah, we can definitely have public health and our coordinator there. My guess is there's going to have to be more meetings in terms of that coordination piece, but I think it'd be a good opportunity to introduce the players and emphasize the importance of that role, especially if the board does that. That carries a lot more weight.
Sure.
Anybody else? Are they involved with the PAC program?
That would all be, so that's coordinated through public health and public safety
just wanted
too.
to make sure we get,
Yeah.
just so people can get a first blush reaction to the new person.
Yeah.
That'd
Was
be
it
great.
Eagle or Summit who pulled out of
E-
Mind Springs?
Eagle was first, and then Summit County has followed suit to work with Eagle County.
And they're not going to come back and give this new person a chance? Or?
I do not know the answer to that, but I think they're pretty far down the path right now of implementing and having their own behavioral health organization approved. So I would not anticipate that. I would anticipate that Mind Springs will continue to operate in some capacity in those counties, but that's going to be another conversation. We had gone a different route with contracting with Mind Springs. And we're going to be going through that RFP process again and looking at providers in the future. And so the new president and CEO, hopefully will be providing guidance on that response.
Okay.
Other item, meeting in Redstone. We had talked about this fall going to Redstone, particularly around the short-term rentals. I believe that was discussed at the last agenda review, and we are looking at September 27th for that meeting. We're still trying to nail down what a good location would be. Charlotte is working on that. But just wanted to confirm that that's going to work for the board before we
Is that the afternoon or late afternoon of a regular work session day, I believe?
September 26th.
It's a Thursday. Are you still
Was
going to
it
be in
Thursday?
I think it was a separate day, Patty, but I just want to pull it
It's
up
the
and
next
double
week,
check.
Tuesday.
Breckenridge is the week before.
20th to 22nd is Breckenridge.
Yeah, and this is
Did you
the
say 27 or 22?
27th, which is a
Tuesday.
Tuesday. It's a regular work
So
session.
it's my understanding it's the end of the day, like 4 to 6 or something, yeah?
Yeah, or we could even look at just doing the whole work session there.
We talked about that, but the fact that we wouldn't be able to broadcast or anything from there.
That's right.
So, and technically, we wouldn't necessarily need to broadcast the meeting. Just want to make sure that ComDev staff is ready to give us information, maybe prior to that meeting, so we, about what's on the avenue, what's historic, what's commercial. So we have that before us, and any suggestions and ideas that staff can bring forward as to what was brought up during our initial discussion about short-term rentals. Because that's what we want to focus on, and then we need to make sure we get the word out in every possible way to the people of Redstone.
Yeah, is that the only topic that we're going to be discussing?
Yes. It's going to take up the time.
I do think that will probably take up the time, given the
Certainly
number of
will,
folks.
but,
that-
okay.
Yeah.
I'll wait then to say my thing when it's my turn.
We were talking about maybe, if possible, if it worked out, to do the turnaround, turnabout,
Turnabout.
down the covers.
Turnabout.
Site
Same
visit
day,
maybe
but
on the
yeah, we
way.
can't.
I don't know if that would work out, since we're going to be down there anyway, because it's on Prince Creek.
Well, what
I'm
if we
sorry, I
had a
guess
shortened
I missed
meeting on
that
Tuesday?
conversation.
Well, right now, we're
So
trying to
we'll
keep
use
our
them.
work session short, so we have the whole afternoon. Leslie Lamont wants to take us on a site visit of the,
She's
Turn-
coming.
She's going to be at,
Yeah.
yeah.
but so I'm
open
trying to tie
discussion
that
for
into the fact that we might be able to tie that in. I'll bring it up when Leslie's here too, to our, if we're going to be down on the Crystal, we might be able to do both. If we have time, just so we make sure we get to Redstone on time.
All right, well, we will continue to plan for that date then in the afternoon, seeing that that seems to work for the board.
Did you have anything for future agendas?
I have one more, Patty.
go ahead.
I was going to bring up the Mountain 2030
gonna bring that up.
conference.
Oh, yeah.
It runs from September 20th to the 22nd, and Patty, you had already indicated, I think, that you wanted to go. Our sponsorship, the board did provide a sponsorship for that event, which allows 4 participants from the county. So we did want to check and see if there are any other commissioners that wanted to attend.
Because we'd be missing one work session.
I just want to note that the conference conflicts with the joint meeting and lunch at Twin Lakes with the Lake County Commissioners on the 21st. Patty, you'd indicated you're already going to drive back, but if we have multiple commissioners, you may be going back and forth. And then on the 20th, we did have a presentation. Patty, I think you had requested this from Northwest COG going
I've
into
heard that
the-
presentation 20 years worth,
Okay.
so it's okay for me not to be here, but it's important for the board because it could be a budgetary consideration.
Well,
On
we
the
don't have to go
20th.
for every day, do we, if we go? We're not
No.
committed for all 3 days.
You
right?
can do whatever you want.
Yeah. What's the name of the group? It's not Mountain what?
It's here. It's the Mountain 2030 Summit, MT 2030 Summit in Breckenridge. And I was going to be looking at staying in Silverthorne where I usually stay, but in thinking more about it, they've got a discount. I'll talk with Elaine. They've got a discounted rate right in Breckenridge when you're walkable to all the events, so makes much better
I thought you were
sense.
talking about that thing that's going to be here in Aspen.
No.
No,
That's
no.
that's next year.
Yeah, that one, and
it
that one
this
will be
fall?
next year, and there will also be opportunities for board members to go with our sponsorship of that.
Oh, so this is in Breckenridge, and what is the Mountain 2030? I guess I
It's
didn't
about
read this.
climate change in the western states.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to go to part of that anyway.
But then we'd have to look, we have to make sure we have a quorum for the meeting on, the work session on the
Correct.
20th. And we all go over and attend the luncheon in Lake County.
Well, I
I
might
mean,
go from the luncheon to Breck. I'd go.
Look at the agendas for
Yeah, I
Wednesday and
will.
Thursday.
Yeah, that'd probably be what I'd
So-
do. Go to the lunch in Lake City and then, in
Twin Lakes.
Twin Lakes, and then go over to Breckenridge.
Okay.
Okay.
I might go. I have to talk with Scott. But And then I
Well-
would do what you were doing.
Yeah,
Just
if
make sure
we,
we have 3 people here on Tuesday.
we just need to ensure a quorum for the work session on the 20th, and that we'll have at least good representation for a meeting with our Lake County commissioners.
I'm definitely planning on
What
being
is scheduled for the work session on the 20th? Is that something you would
there. Northwest
consider
COG
Don't-
presentation
canceling?
of services.
That, yeah, and so I don't have those right in front of me right now.
Yeah, neither do I.
But we could look at making it light too, potentially.
We really need to make it looking at
Okay.
like the next week for the Redstone, so we can get up there, and if we want to do turnabout on the way.
And that's all I had for future agendas.
Francie, did you have something for future agendas?
Well, I would like us to look at considering the priorities between historic preservation and environmental building codes. Because right now, if you live in a house that's been designated historic, you can't change out your ridiculously old windows that the weather comes through, and you can't put solar on your roof. And so I think it's something that we might want to consider, that, you know, for, in particular, a guy in Redstone has called me a couple of times about this, because Pitkin County gave him a permit for his solar, and then the historic district in Redstone said, wait a minute, no way.
Well, that's
So-
different than Pitkin County codes, I believe. In Pitkin County, you can change out your windows. You just have to keep the window frames and exterior historic, but you can put in thermal pane glass.
I know, but Redstone is in Pitkin County, so I just think it's something that we might want to talk about at some date, that perhaps we need to think about which comes first, keeping it exactly as it was 100 years ago, but that's not really the way we live anymore, or being able to put solar on your roof and some things
Well,
like that.
and I
so.
think, aren't we bringing back the Redstone Historic Guidelines? So maybe that's when we have the
Yeah, we
discussion.
could do it then. When is that?
I do not have that in front of me right
Okay,
now.
no
Can we
worries.
just make sure staff knows that we want to discuss specifically solar and energy upgrades in historic preservation? Is that where you're going?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anytime, anytime. Steve, did you have anything for future agendas?
No, I don't.
Thanks. Steve's hand is mending well. Actually, I checked it out. On a nursing standpoint, I'm extremely impressed. Kelly?
No, I'm good.
I think that is the only real one I had was the Breckenridge event and joint in the Lake County, the Lake County luncheon. And, yeah, those are the only 2 items I had there so far. I do want the board to know that I've asked for a future agenda item discussion on the 24th, when we have our second reading of the ambulance district ballot measure. Is that what we're calling it, Kelly? I asked them to bring forward the information, Francie, about special events and how it might adjust the mill levy. So Gabe is working on that information to bring forward at that time for discussion.
Okay, I won't be here, but I might be zooming in at
Okay.
that time.
Because I know that was an issue I think Ellen Anderson brought up, and so I
Yeah.
followed up with staff on that.
When is that coming back?
The 24th.
24th.
Of August. Okay.
That's our second reading, and then we'll move it forward. Okay. So we are good to go to board reports, I do believe. And I think the board is really going to be happy that right now, I don't have anything to report because ACRA's meeting is next week, COG's meeting is next week, and the Intermountain TPR, the only thing that Brian and I have been talking about is whether or not there's any money actually coming forward for us to spend. So, I'm good. And John Ely will not be doing the River District today because the stuff he has to bring forward, he will be bringing forward an executive session in the future. So, Francie.
So I'll be talking about wolves today, because I don't have anything from CCI, and this is related to everything else that I have. Ag and wildlife and the scenic loop and all that stuff. So we have been discussing various aspects of social impact of wolves being reintroduced onto the Colorado landscape. I know that everybody is dying to know where they're going to be released, but that's something that the technical working group is going to decide, and it'll be decided sometime in the next year, but that is not our purview.
What is your working group?
There are two working groups with the wolf reintroduction efforts. One is Stakeholders Advisory Group, which I'm on, and one is a technical working group, which is composed of wolf experts and biologists and environmentalists and those kind of people. So we did, I think I've told you before, we did look at where the possibilities are where they could be introduced. And certainly the White River National Forest looms large in that, but not specifically where. It has to be, well, we started out with 30 miles from every state line, but I think it's been increased to 70 because they migrate so quickly. And so if we spend millions of dollars bringing in wolves from Wyoming and we put them somewhere 30 miles from the Wyoming line, they're gonna go home. So, plus we don't want our wolves going somewhere else into other states because then we can't protect them and so on. So I think it's 70 miles now, and then we also have a border around the tribal lands. So that eliminates quite a bit of land. Of course, they can't be on the Front Range, which takes out the whole Sangre de Cristo Range, which is too bad because it's got few people and lots of elk.
It puts them in the puts them at Maroon Creek in the White River National Forest.
Pretty much puts them here. And then they probably won't be released into Moffat County. First, that was the case because even though it's great habitat for elk and for wolves, nobody in Moffat County voted for Proposition 114. So it's a very unlikely place for the wolves to be accepted, and maybe a dangerous place to release them.
Washington Park.
What?
Washington Park. Downtown
Well, and the other thing about Moffat is that is where the female migrated to from Wyoming. I forget the name of the territory she was in, the area she was in Wyoming, but can't remember. Anyway, she came down, and then eventually a male came down, and they had 3 pups, and they've all thrown their locators, so we don't know where they are. But and then there was another male that was in the northwest part of the state, but so that's another reason probably not to introduce them there. They're already dealing with that. There have been depredations, 3 calves, or maybe a cow and 2 calves were killed there, but that was a while ago, and there haven't been any repeats of that. Don Gittleson, do you know him? And then, so we've talked a little bit about where and why where, but we've also talked a lot about the impacts of wolf depredation on ranchers and also on outfitters. And so we had a lot of work done on ungulate studies, and there are approximately 287,000 elk in Colorado. It's the largest elk population in the world. And that is the primary prey of wolves, although they eat moose and deer also. But 22 of the 42 elk herds in Colorado are above their current population objective range, but that leaves 20 that aren't above their optimal size, and only about 40% of elk calves right now survive their first winter, so our calving rate is not really high. So one of the things that we looked at, and is being what we're recommending to the CPW, and I'm pretty sure they're going to do this, they're already doing it in some places, is to increase the size of the elk herds before the wolves are introduced. So that if there is an area where the wolves populate fairly rapidly and then they start negatively affecting the ungulate population, the CPW has already taken some steps to try to stabilize that elk population in spite of wolf depredation. A wolf will eat 6 to 8 pounds of meat a day, which translates to about, if I'm not mistaken, 36 elk a year per wolf. So you can see, for instance, if we put them over near where I live, where the crown herd is, the crown herd is somewhere around 240 elk or something like that, and you had 10 wolves there, it's not going to be long before they decimate that herd. So that's one of the things we looked at, is how do we avoid the degradation of stable elk herds. Also, the degradation of the elk in certain areas could have really negative impacts on outfitters. So we talked about that a whole lot, and how to compensate outfitters if their unit, where they have their licenses to take hunters, is negatively impacted by the introduction of wolves. What can we do? And one of them is that we might offer them a different unit for a certain amount of time until we could restabilize the elk population in their original unit. Or we might have a lottery for tags, like if we have to reduce tags across the state or in certain areas, then there are tags that are issued that then we might have more of a lottery for the outfitters. So let's say if you're an outfitter in Meeker and the elk population that you usually hunt in your unit has been driven somewhere else by the presence of wolves, then you might still be guaranteed a certain number of tags so that you have some guarantee of having a season. So either they've reduced tags in your whole area, and so then the outfitters are guaranteed some tags. And of course, my problem with that is, well, what about the local hunters? What about the people who hunt there all the time? And
Who feed
that's
their
how they,
families with that.
exactly. So they both feed their families. One from the
Technically.
income of the tags, and the other from the elk. So that's not entirely worked out yet, but we did make some recommendations to the CPW about looking at that. And we spent quite a bit of time on a document that looks like this. And this document talks about the different phases of wolf recovery. So that's not it.
I thought that looked like the budget for the ambulance
That's not it. I
district.
picked up the wrong one. Where's that other one? Is it still in my briefcase?
There's one right behind your, no, that's future agendas.
Anyway, it's
So it gives you an idea, because
it talks about the different phases of wolf recovery, and
Because real quick while you're looking, I thought we still had a current issue with our declining elk population in this part of the White River.
we do,
Yeah, so,
and it's mostly because of our calving rate. But if they reduce the number of tags in the next couple of years, then that will help that. But anyway, the spreadsheet that I'm talking about talks about the different phases of wolf recovery. So phase 1 is when they're still endangered. You may remember they were endangered and then they were delisted under Trump. But they've been relisted. So, and I've got a cramp in my leg. They've always been listed in Colorado. But having the National Endangered Species Act list them means that the control of the wolves left the Colorado Parks and Wildlife and went to the Fish and Game Department. Is that what it's called? Fish and Game Department, Fish and Game, whatever. But the Fish and Game's working with CPW now so that they can be called a experimental population, which then gives the control of them back to CPW. So that's going to happen, I'm pretty sure.
so the feds are gonna talk to the states to try and resolve that.
Yeah, and so that would be under the 10J rule, and that's what we're talking about this month, is what's going to happen with the 10J. So the 10J is basically talks about, I just found that other document, by the way. Talks about how the Endangered Species Act protects different animals and then the organizations that control them and what this experimental population means. And so as soon as we get the experimental population approved, then we'll get the control of the wolves back to the Colorado Parks and Wildlife. And, so I was telling you, so the phase 1 for the wolves is when they're still endangered. And then phase 2 is when they're starting to recover and they are no longer listed, but they have not, their classification is,
Threatened?
yeah, then they're threatened. And then 3 is when they're now completely delisted, but they're still non-game. So they're still not able to hunt them. And then perhaps there'll be a phase 4. And this then affects how you can respond to wolves depredating your herd, or if you come across one in the wild, which will never happen, how you can respond to them. So in phase 1, if they're chasing your animals, for instance, you can harass them, but you can't shoot them. And then in phase 2, you can harass them, and you might be given a permit by the CPW to shoot them on site if they're actually taking down an animal. And then in phase 3, you can do it without a permit. And then our last meeting was a discussion of whether there'll ever be regulated hunting of wolves allowed in Colorado. And it was a really unfortunate conversation because we've spent a whole year coming together as a group and compromising, and ranchers and environmentalists working together and outfitters and everything. And then they threw this at us that we had to talk about this, and there was just no way it wasn't going to be contentious. And it was the head commission who said that, not the CPW. So when we finish with our recommendations, they go to CPW, and then CPW spends 2 or 3 months going over them, and then they go to the commission, which is a group of people that are mostly not employed by the government.
Is that part of the Department of Natural Resources?
No, there are other people that have been drawn from, they're like an appointed commission. So they said to the CPW, you have to talk to the SAG group about hunting of wolves. So we had in June, we talked about it. And we said, well, and it was in small groups, and it was actually went really well because pretty much everybody agreed, well, it's ridiculous to make a decision about hunting wolves in the future because they'd have to be delisted. They have to have a stable population, which means at least 200 for 2 years, I believe. Somewhere between 150 and 200 wolves for 2 years running. And who knows if we're even going to get there and when that's going to be. So we're not going to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it. We recommend to the Colorado Parks and Wildlife that they don't talk about it, and we recommend to the commission that they don't make a decision on this now. So we thought we were done with it. And then in July, it came back again, and Eric Odell, who's a big guy in the CPW, said, they didn't buy it. You have to talk about it more. You have to come up with some kind of recommendations. So we talked about it some more, and it's hard because there are some people who feel like there isn't any other way of dealing with wolves who have recovered to the point where there's too many, whatever that might mean to different people. Too many to a rancher might not be enough for a wolf advocate. But anyway, so there are people who feel that that's the only way to deal with increasing wolf numbers. And then there's people who
As
feel...
opposed to I don't know, increasing an elk hunt and lowering their food supply or something.
Well, it's pretty hard to imagine what they're actually talking about when they say there's too many wolves on the landscape, I guess. I mean, because they already have means to take out a wolf that's actually depredating their animals. That's already an option. But this is like regulated hunting where you go out and you buy a tag and you go out in the woods
Well, who
looking
set the
for
number
wolves.
at 200? That seems like a very low amount.
It's a very low amount, and it's not the optimal amount. That's the least number.
I would say when elves get to be
You mean-
500 or more, then
mean
we'll...
wolves?
I mean, what did
Yeah.
I say, elf?
You said
Elf.
elk, yeah, well, I
think
do
I
that
said
too.
elf, actually. And when they get to be 500, documented 500 or more, then we will reconsider, then we'll consider
Right.
tag.
Well, it's just
take that
phase
number
3.
and
Yeah, it's exactly right. And nobody knows exactly what a stable population will be. I kind of forgotten the numbers for
Kinda
the
hard
other
to
three
count those
states.
guys.
I think it's, I wish I could remember, I think for Idaho, it might be
Yeah, I would
2,500.
just recommend-
2,500 or something,
Since-
but,
Since we already have wolves that we know are coming into Moffett County, therefore we're not gonna reintroduce them there, why don't we just not reintroduce them and let them come in over
you
the?
can't believe how many people ask that. It's probably the most common question now that we've had wolves migrate in from Wyoming. Yeah, so why don't we save millions of dollars and just
Let them come
in?
as they
Yeah.
may.
But the law's already been passed, so.
Well,
that's
then
the way it
let's
is, so.
institute the law slowly.
So there are about 5 of us on the board who are pretty ardent wolf advocates. And I'm in a weird position because my family is a ranching family, but I'm a wolf advocate. And, I mean, my whole family is, but, and then there's 2 outfitters and maybe 3 full-time ranchers and a bunch of professionals who work in various aspects of biology and stuff, defenders of wildlife. And but so we went through this quite a bit about, well, what happens if this and what happens if that, and we still came back with pretty much the same feeling that we can't tell what the future is going to be. And since some of us don't think there should ever be hunting of wolves, and some of us think that it should only be under these circumstances, we can't make a recommendation to the commission except for asking them not to make a decision about regulated hunting at this time. So that's where
I would
that's where we
support
left
that.
it. Took us hours to get to the same thing.
Kelly
They may
has,
come back to you and say, not good enough.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have any expertise in these fields, but I'm just wondering, is there a way where you look at this by like population density by square mile or something in terms of
How many wolves are
Yeah.
make a stable population?
yeah, and like, human development and like where, I mean, isn't that why they carve up the state into these management units and just information that they take into account about how many of an animal is a healthy population for this unit versus this unit?
Well, it definitely varies by unit, of course, and there are some sort of algorithms that we've learned from the northern states, from their efforts. And, we really don't want to repeat what's happened up there, which has just been terrible. And where legislators have turned into, it's like, well, the other issue where legislators turn into doctors. Well, this is like legislators turn into biologists and don't know what they're talking about.
I'm just concerned about this 70-mile setback from state lines, looking at the White River National Forest. And even though I'm sure Pitkin County voters, I don't know what the margin was of support.
It was about 70% pro.
Yeah, that's pretty significant, but to start reintroducing them into areas that are so highly recreational use areas is of concern both for the safety and the well-being of the wolf and for the safety and well-being of our visitors.
Well, wolves don't threaten humans. That's the
Unless
first
they're
thing.
pushed into it with
No,
humans.
they don't. They don't. They
They
don't
just
choose
take
to
off?
attack humans. They don't. They leave. So people aren't threatened. Their own bodies aren't threatened by wolves. I mean, maybe
Is it more the
once in
perception of?
history, it's virtually non-existent. I mean, maybe 2 in the course of history or something. I mean, it's really non-existent. But it could definitely affect how people feel about going up into the snowmass wilderness, for instance, if they know there's wolves there. They may not come here, or maybe more will come here because they want to see wolves.
Or maybe they'll bring a gun when they
That's
come.
the prediction, is that it will increase tourism wherever wolves are introduced, that it will bring people there to see wolves.
I don't think I would go somewhere where I wanted. I think they're fine out in the
I do a lot of
wilderness all
solo
day.
backpacking.
I'd be
Yeah.
scared if I saw a
I'm not
wolf in the
scared of
wild, but
any black
you should be
bears or anything.
much more scared of mountain lions and bears.
Or moose.
Because they attack people.
Or moose.
Or moose, but at least
Yeah.
moose don't eat you. Bears and lions do.
Okay, well, we
Anyway, that's where we are. We have one more meeting.
keep us in
And
the
then we
loop
pass
when
it
they're
off.
coming to town.
Well, the next thing will happen, we have this meeting, is it next week or the week after? And
Next
then it goes to the CPW, and then it goes to the commission in December. So they've let us know that they'll probably want some of us to come to some of the commission meetings throughout next year. And then everything will be decided by the fall, and they'll be released before Christmas 2023.
Interesting that it ends up being in the hands of an appointed commission.
I
Not,
know.
say, for example, Dan Gibbs with the Department of Natural Resources.
I know, it's interesting.
Interesting. Okay, France, anything else? You said that was it for you.
That's it for me.
Kelly. Let's see. APCHA.
APSHA, always a busy agency. So we are awaiting results from a survey on right sizing, where they surveyed all the owners of units about different types of incentives that owners might be amicable towards to fill any empty extra bedrooms that they may have through
Oh.
divorce, children moving on.
Interesting. Just see
whatever.
what's out there.
Yep. I will note there will probably be a funding ask in the future related to those incentives. So money for housing is not always to build housing. It can be to improve our program. So stay tuned. And then another conversation we're having, which I think will be quite interesting. So you all know, I think we brought this update back, but we had adjusted the income limits to acknowledge higher wage increases and in the valley so that people could retain their rental housing. And we're going to revisit this after a year to see if it still makes sense to have people be able to qualify at a higher income limit within their same category. And so we continue to have conversations about we use AMI limits in categories 1 through 5 to qualify either to rent or purchase. So we continue to have conversations about whether AMI is a meaningful indicator to use, or and if so, what those AMIs should be based on, the different categories, category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if there should be some temporary adjustments, particularly for ownership. Ownership is a little bit different from rental because we don't have flexibility to readjust those. When somebody buys in at a qualification for a unit for sale, like that's it, right? We don't go back and recoup
Say
money
you can't
or
make any
say,
more money.
yeah, things like
So
that.
I have a quick question on
Sure.
that. I had somebody call me who apparently makes $48. It's a rental at the Pomegranate, which is city rental. She makes
Isn't that Aspen Country? I don't know.
well, same thing.
Yeah.
I think it's the Pomegranate now. It's the old school Pomegranate.
Yeah.
She makes $48 a year too much. She offered to reduce her income by $48 a year and was told, sorry, you don't qualify.
So we are considering those those are the tax credit properties, and there's layers of rules for the tax credit properties. So there's a state qualification process for an individual trying to get into a tax credit property. Now for the state, once you're in, you're in. So if you qualify at that low income level and into that unit,
they're not
requalifying you.
Federal is
But
different.
APSHA does a 2-year requalification, and if you make more than their limit in that 2-year period at those tax credit properties, you lose APSHA's qualification. So there's been conversation about changing the rules related to the tax credit properties that
coincide with the state
rules.
which makes sense.
Right. There's a little bit of inequity there because other APSHA properties are not going to continue to do that, right? Like renters are still going to have to qualify every 2 years. But we did have some discussion that, like, in this period of, housing
Chaos.
availability and higher wages, that maybe there's some flexibility related to if they can pay more rent. So instead of losing their unit altogether, if their income comes up, maybe their rent goes up to match that, to make it more equitable across the whole
I think the key thing
landscape of renters.
What is the tax credit property?
Those are the low income tax credits when they were
Some
were
at Truscott
built.
and some across the
Truscott
street.
2 and Aspen Country Inn. These are the ones where we are having a hard time filling the 2-bedroom units on.
Because we don't have anybody who
'Cause
makes
people make
that
too much
little
money.
money.
Yeah, and we have units sitting empty, and I would rather see us have some flexibility and be
But
creative.
this isn't gonna address that. This will, I mean, it may cause that problem worse in the sense that if we're kicking people out, now we need people to qualify
Yeah.
for that unit fresh, and they may not be able to.
Yeah,
The problems that we're having with the units that we're not able to fill is that generally they're 2 bedrooms, and so a 2-income earning family or household
Makes
is
too
going
much.
to be above. So it really works for like a someone with a dependent or a disabled adult, and 1 income earner for those
but we still have units sitting empty.
I know. I'm trying everything.
I know
I
you are,
talked to
and
the
I
state.
appreciate the
called
effort.
Garfield County Human Services to ask them if they have people who work in Pitkin County that might qualify.
Thank you, because that's bothersome
Yeah.
to many that in
I
a
know it
housing
is.
shortage and we have units sitting empty. But I think we're on the right track to try and be creative.
Well, and that's why we don't pursue more of those tax credit properties. You know, I think the bigger
they're-
conversation that the city could have, and I think Rachel and Skippy bring this back, is if they want to buy out the tax credit from on those properties and then have more flexibility what to do with them. But some of these have 15 and 30-year
Time frame.
still.
Shelf
so
life.
It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, a reason for needing more housing money that isn't necessarily
Which would be,
building new housing.
So it'd be development neutral.
Yeah. I'll just
Well,
keep
now
saying
that's
that.
different if you're using it for not new buildings.
That's,
Greg's gonna
I'm
look
just
at that very
saying, I'm just
differently.
saying.
that's an option in our mix.
So anyway, but then now we're in our packet for discussion tomorrow. You know, one of the things that APSHA boards prior to Francie and I joining have discussed is should our APSHA qualification limit or income limits be based on an affordability standard? So
What's that?
So that's like how much can you afford to pay in housing? You know, and that's what your qualification level would be, as opposed to these categories that are just set and you either fall in one bucket or another bucket. And some people fall in a bucket where they're only paying 15% of their income in housing, and some people fall into a bucket where they're paying 45% of their income in housing. You know, so should it be more based on what we would like community members we think is fair to afford? You know, and you hear the standard is like 30% of your income should be housing expenses. I'm told that bankers just pulled that number out of the sky 40 years ago, and there's no real like reason that it's that number.
Yeah,
but
I just
Is that
saw
what
some.
John said?
I
John said that?
I don't think John has said that, but I've had other
would
conversations
be
with like
interesting if John
Chaffa
said that.
people and other housing advocates that are like, this number came from nowhere. So anyway, so now some of the discussion APSHA is going to entertain tomorrow's meeting is more of what Snowmass Village does, which they look at what your maximum income and assets are, and that determines how much of a house you can afford.
For purchase or rent? We're talking about purchase?
I think these are purchase. So stay tuned. We'll bring back more details, but I don't know how much you guys want to weigh in on these conversations or if there's other
I
issues.
think we just
about
need to be
APSHA
creative and get people into
to
units,
bring.
which is a priority for me.
How many of these places are empty?
I've
I
heard
just think
anywhere
there's like
from
4.
2 to more. I've heard more.
Well, no, they report it out to us. It's like 4 to 6 units that are sitting empty.
Well, why don't we put homeless
And it's
people in it?
tough.
They don't qualify.
Because they have no
No,
income.
we could, and I have reached out to Lindsay and have said, you know, are there people that we can connect to that are homeless too? And they're trying to do that. They have had some successful
Either
referrals
transitional housing or something.
in the past.
Emergency
Some of them
housing.
don't always work the required number of hours. I've suggested, what about music school students? And the state credit doesn't allow for students to live in this housing.
What the hell? Why not? That seems so bizarre.
So this was the deal that was cut back in the day, and the tax
When it made
credits
sense back in the day.
you know, more sense. And of course, how those income limits grow probably make more sense for other communities that don't have the same economic pressures, and we have to adhere to the covenants that were entered into when this financing tool was accepted. And so that's the big challenge right now. And so there's going to be employment requirements, income restrictions, who can and can't access, and that's why these units are open. It's not because APSHA is not trying to fill them. It's just a real challenge, and we have been reaching out to populations, and even sometimes our unhoused population that's employed will exceed that income limit.
Well, I suggest.
And that's set by, I'm sorry, the feds or?
Yes,
the
it's from
feds?
HUD, and it's one of these things that we like lobby our delegations on, I mean, it affects all over the state, but for these tax credit properties, it's a HUD program that gets funneled through CHAFA at the state, that these limits are not working for us.
One of the things I suggested is, apparently there's some people living in not tax credit units who would qualify, but they don't want to move. So they'd rather stay where they are. I suggested maybe looking into some flexibility with the state or the feds, to just then taking the tax restrictions, putting them on those units so that so that people didn't have to move and then incur the cost, or somebody having to pay for them to move from unit to unit, which is, some people just say, I'm here. And so,
No,
that
we
would
have
free
done
up.
that. I know that there's another city-owned property where those rents would match, and they've reached out to people there to see if
And
they
they're like, I'm not moving.
I don't know if they've had any.
So
success
maybe if they
there,
could
but that
flip
was
it
one
with
of
the feds or the
recent-
state, say, hey, we're in a housing crisis, can we just then take the same number of units, but flip them,
Right.
the tax credit unit restrictions to these units, so people don't have to move to those units, kind of. But that would totally confuse the government.
So
that
that's
would
what's
mean-
going on.
So then
in
people wouldn't
Hampshire,
have a
I'd say.
choice about where they live, so you have to go move over there?
Well,
If you
no,
want to stay in affordable housing, you have to
no,
go
no,
over
they
there?
can stay where they are, it's just it's leaving the other units open. I'm
Right.
trying to find a way to fill the other units for people who don't qualify for the state, for the federal tax credit requirement.
Oh, I see, but you still have the same number of people.
Yeah.
I got it. I
So
got
the
it.
same
So
number-
2
40
people here
bedrooms,
only
you just
make
need 40
25,000.
bedrooms to
Yeah, and they
But
wanna-
these people make 40, they can stay there, and these people
It
can
will take the
live.
tax credit restrictions
Yeah.
and flip them over to the
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
$25,000. Yeah, okay, Kelly, what else?
So that's all I really have. We don't, CCI, CCAT haven't really met. The River Basin was talking about the update to the water plan.
Okay. Steve?
So CCI, this Thursday is the Mountain District meeting that
Oh.
I'll be going to.
Are you going to take Kelly's PowerPoint on RET? That was really well done.
So part of the meeting anyhow will be going over the legislative proposals.
On your knees, Steve, beg,
Again.
borrow,
I'll
please.
be pitching the
It's
real
this
estate
Thursday, huh?
transfer tax once again.
So you will not be attending the
I
kickoff meeting?
think the only way would be if I left Mountain District meeting early.
Where is it?
It's in Canyon City.
Oh, no, you'd have to leave really early to get back here
So
for our
I
meeting.
probably will not, I probably will just stay to the end of the Mountain District. and
Yeah.
Get as much done as I can there. and-
We're just doing a brief kickoff for the community.
Yeah. So I would
Growth
love to be
management.
there for the meeting, but you will be well represented at the meeting.
Well,
in
as far as the
Aspen.
BoCC part of it is brief, the rest is staff.
I do have something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you said you were only doing
I'll
those.
wait until board discussion.
Let's see. Club 20,
Ooh, when's the debate?
September, while I'm in Alaska, they're having this fall meeting, but part of that is the debates for the candidates on the Saturday.
Day-
And that
That's a day
can
when I
be
can't go.
very interesting to see. Sometimes there are some little bit of fireworks take place.
When is it?
I
There's
think it's
something-
like September.
So people wear like
Let me look
candidate
on my
T-shirts
calendar.
and like
Piling
jump
up
up
in
with
September
signs and
fast.
stuff.
Yeah.
Wear your guns.
So September 10th
Yeah, no, there's something.
is the day
It's
that,
the 9th and the 10th, and I'm going to be with Tommy in the hospital.
and I know
Where is
that
it?
one time there was
Grand Junction.
fireworks between Lauren Boebert and Rachel Richards at Club 20.
Oh, yeah.
At one of
Rachel
these.
came,
Can you send
Rachel
a
was
substitute?
packing and it wasn't guns, it was
So-
water.
Does it have to be you or nobody?
No,
Can you send a
no,
substitute?
anybody could go to it.
You have to get a ticket or something.
Yeah, you would have to,
You should have gotten an email.
if you were
I did, I didn't read
interested.
it.
So
I
on
never
the
read those.
Friday is the meetings
read
where the voting takes place, where Rachel and I are the two who can vote.
For
But if
policies?
we only get one vote for Pitkin County, so And Rachel's the main representative for Pitkin County on voting on the policy changes and all
Well,
that.
I'm sure she'll be there on Saturday for the debate. I would
So
like to see Adam debate her.
I hate to miss that actually, but
You won't be
I
here.
will be in Alaska. So senior council is meeting tomorrow. I'll be at that, and Chad Federovich is doing they're doing an assessment of the whole HHS
They hired a
building and
contractor. We're
department.
hiring a
So
lot
the
of
senior
contractors these days.
services is getting an assessment done, and he'll be giving a report on that, like potential recommended changes. And they're going to have a booth at the Aspen Farmers Market, I think, this Saturday. So if anybody goes to the farmers market, stop in and
Which
bother
farmers
the
market are you
people
going
at the.
to?
This weekend? I don't have plans.
I thought you said you were going to somewhere with healthy.
Oh, tomorrow in Carbondale.
So SAPCA is no longer, that can be removed from the agendas. I haven't heard
Would
yet.
you just let Charlotte know that?
Yeah, I'll let Charlotte know that can save a little bit of ink and one little space of line there. And the Vintage we had our meeting several weeks ago. It's just four meetings a year that I'm the chair of that, and
Francie loves that name.
I'm
for the
enjoying
old
being
people.
the chair at Vintage because for a change, the meetings are running smoothly. They used to be more disjointed.
I'll tell you who does a good job is Alyssa Schenk from Snowmass, runs the COG meetings, and she's really on it. She's great. All right, I think that summarizes our board
Do
membership
you want to hear
reports.
about RAFTA, the RAFTA, where we are? It's not a
No,
big deal.
they're opting out. That's all we need to know.
It was most of the meeting was about that, actually. But also, now we are 40 drivers short.
Oh,
And so there is a really, really big push for housing because they've been advertising for drivers and the wages are really good and they have really good benefits. But when people find out about the housing situation here, they're like, heck no, I'm not moving there.
can they
So-
turn any of those old buses into housing, like tiny homes?
So they are looking at a lot of housing choices, and at the retreat, which was last month, I think, the board gave pretty clear direction that we want to look at built housing and not construction. Because construction is too unpredictable right now and too expensive.
Too time consuming.
And yeah, it's just too far out there. So we are looking at built housing. I told you a little bit about that. It's not finalized yet, so I can't really say anything, but it's close. And so there are some opportunities, and I think that will really help a lot. So the middle of the day bus service is 30 minutes apart, which shocked me the other day. I was like, what? There's nobody coming for 25 minutes? So I had to get in my car. But it's still 15 minutes morning and evening rush hours, but I think maybe some of the outer routes, the local routes and stuff have been slightly affected. The buses continue to be crowded, and it's not ideal. But it's where we are, and they're doing their best to take care of it. The staff is amazing. And we did get the, can't remember if I told you this last week.
We did. We talked
We got
about
the
the
$10
grant.
million for the 29th Street,
27th
27th
Street.
Street station in the regional transit center. So that was really great.
Yeah. I saw the news, some article about that, but they're actually going to do two pedestrian underpasses there.
Well, they're doing it.
One under Grand Avenue and then the other under 27th Street
I haven't seen the part on 77th Street.
to
The
get
one under
people
Grand
safely
Avenue.
to the.
It's my daughter and my grandkids and I cross there a lot, and it is scary.
Well, you should see the design for the underpass there. It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah,
It's
pretty scary. I don't know what they're going to do in the meantime.
That's one, that intersection is one that if I ride Rapta to go to the VA clinic
That's where you get off.
I have to cross Grand Avenue right there to get over. It's only like a block and a half to the VA clinic from there, but you have to go through that intersection if you
It's
ride
pretty
Rapta.
sketchy.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to start construction on that pretty soon. And there's the two new big apartment buildings right above the 27th Street station.
Yeah,
so
Shock
that-
Construction
that'll
was
be
doing
great
those.
for those guys.
Okay, so we have board open discussion. I think I've cleared off all mine under future agendas.
I just forgot what
I've
mine
got,
was. What was it?
I've got one more for you, Patty. So we did have a Scribner's error in the last resolution appointing board members, citizen board members, and the board had directed that we appoint Michael Miracle to the Citizen Grant Review Committee. His name was not on that resolution,
Oh.
so we will be correcting that at the next regular
On the
meeting.
24th.
But in the meantime, following the board's intent, because the Grant Review Committee is starting their work, that we are going to invite Michael to the table as if he were appointed,
No
and we'll go
problem.
ahead and do that retroactively. So just wanted to let you know that when you
And
see
you'll
that
deal with John
resolution.
Ely about that.
Yep,
Yeah, no problem.
that's all I had. We do have Leslie here.
We have Leslie
Yep.
here, and Leslie, why don't you come forward with, Francie, would you?
Mine's
give me
really
thing?
quick.
Okay, just come forward, and go ahead, Francie.
Lydia McIntyre has been trying to get in touch with Cara. Is she still on vacation or?
She's
There's-
back.
She's back.
Because she is going to be gone. It turns out she's going to New Zealand. She didn't know that when she applied for the advisory group. And so she's going to miss 6 meetings, so she's willing to turn in her resignation if you guys
To
want
the
her to.
Citizens Advisory, the growth
The
management?
growth management.
Oh, yeah, she can't miss 6 meetings.
Yeah, so she's willing to resign from it. And she said she'd do it in time for us to appoint somebody else, but I don't know if we would choose to go that way. But we might just have fewer people. But she's kind of waiting to hear back from Cara, but I thought you guys should know as well since,
Yeah, because the meeting's Thursday.
yeah, so she's all ready to go and she's excited about it. And she's going to try to Zoom in if it's possible, but she's going to be in New Zealand. So
For 6 weeks.
if you guys want, she's willing to resign.
No, she'll miss 6 meetings.
And she's been communicating with Cara, so we could
Does the
send her.
board think that's appropriate, that will be done? Yeah. Well, I'll discuss it tomorrow when I meet with Kara and Cindy Hubin.
No,
and
I
Jeffrey.
don't think missing 6 meetings is appropriate. It's unclear to me if she's going to miss the meetings or attend by Zoom.
It's unclear to her too. So she said she can't guarantee that she can Zoom in. She doesn't know.
She'll be out of the country.
It's quite the time difference.
Yeah.
Okay, I will discuss it, if it's okay with the board, tomorrow with Kara and Cindy Hubin. And I'm feeling that it's not appropriate to keep her on, and we need, I don't know if we remember we put in an extra one.
Yeah.
We had put in some anticipating that there would be some
attrition?
and
Right.
see, it happens.
So now we can go back to 25.
Without the expectation of needing to refill all those
Right.
seats once everybody
Yeah.
drops.
So she was 26, then we'll be back at 25?
We'll be back at 25.
Yeah, I don't think we should replace her.
You want to, are you calling people and asking them to attritionize?
I am not. I just happened to work out with her.
All right.
Even a word, attritionize?
I know, but I just made it up. It's a pretty cool word, don't you think? Attritionize.
George Bush got away with it. Patty can get away with
You
it.
bet. And I can't spell it either, so we're on even keel. Did he make up attritionize?
No, he
Oh,
meant
wait,
different
I
words.
just heard from Lydia. Cara wrote a very nice email saying I should participate and felt I would bring diversity to the table.
But not,
Talking tomorrow about what I can do while I'm away. Thank you for your help. Whoops, I guess I should have been looking at my phone more while you guys were carrying on business.
yeah, I will talk to them. The board does not feel it's, at least Kelly and I don't. Steve, do you think it's appropriate for somebody to miss 6 meetings? Do you think it's appropriate for her to miss 6 meetings?
You mean appropriate to,
She won't be able to attend 6 meetings of the new committee.
6 of the meetings? That would be, I think, difficult to
Have any continuity.
to keep up to speed on all the things. I would leave it, I mean, we're not gonna appoint someone else in her position if she resigned. So I think if she could stick with it as much as she could, but I think I'd leave it up to her.
Well, it's really up to us if we want to allow somebody to not be there for over half of what the meeting schedule might be. I'll talk to Kara and Cindy tomorrow, see what they think as far as the proposed meeting schedule. And that's I'm not bringing anybody up to speed 6 meetings late.
No, nobody wants to do that.
No, we are not doing that. That's one of the reasons we
No,
decided
I
to
think
have
if she can't zoom in, if it's not reasonable for her to zoom
Yeah,
in. then-
okay, so I'll follow up with it tomorrow when I meet with staff. Turnabout, turnaround,
Turnabout Ranch.
Okay.
It's a former Thai bar
Right,
ranch.
I know, I always forget what we're calling it.
Yeah.
So, you're looking at a site visit.
Well, I just want to preface
Oh,
why.
look who's here.
Are your ears burning?
Well, come in because Leslie wants to get this item, but the board is thinking it might not be appropriate, come on up. For,
Sorry, Leslie.
What's her first name again, McIntyre?
Lydia.
Oh, Lydia, of course, Lydia McIntyre to participate if she's gonna miss 6 meetings.
Yes. I heard my ears were burning. Lydia and I have been exchanging emails to touch base. So it's up to the board's decision. We did talk about it at the staff level and feel that if the board wants Lydia to still be a presence as part of this group, we could, the work up until December. Sorry, I ran down from the stairs. I'm out of breath. That, a lot of the work and foundation will still be through December. Obviously, there's different ways that we could work through. If the board saw what she brings to the table, we could find a way to still have her voice be a part of the table and maybe not vote or not. So
I'm just concerned, one of my big points when we were appointing this committee was, I don't want to have to bring anybody up to speed somewhere down the line. It's not fair to the rest of the members of this committee to have somebody come in late and go, what about, because they didn't participate. That's frustrating being on a board where people come in late or don't attend on a regular basis. And actually, it makes people more than frustrated. So the board, Steve and Kelly and I are kind of thinking, Francie can go either way on it.
I feel if she were going to be zooming in, it would be fine to have her. I know there's not very many Down Valley people too, I think, who aren't Aspen people on the committee. So that does bring in a certain amount of diversity. But I'm certainly not going to go against you guys. And, she's a friend of mine, so I'll abstain.
So do you think, but she's going to be in New Zealand do we know if she'll be able to zoom in?
she will have some capacity. Her concern is about the 17-hour difference.
About what?
The 17-hour difference
Well,
of zooming in.
And we haven't decided when and what time the meetings are yet.
We have outlined tentatively the times that they would be, and I think that's what she saw. And she was traveling sooner than she anticipated. Depending on what the board offers, I'm more than willing to reach out, have a conversation, get a little bit more in depth. I know Patty and I have a prep tomorrow to talk about, and can bring that forward for you all, or if you want to make a decision today.
Well, I think I would like to invite her to the meeting on Thursday. See how she feels about what's going on and see if there's any input she can provide then. And then let's take some time to talk with her. And the board is thinking that missing that many meetings isn't going to work, especially with the time difference that Kelly had already brought up. So, again, we don't want to hold the committee back. We want the committee to be able to move forward without having to backtrack.
What time are you looking at for the meetings?
4 to 6 on Wednesdays.
Well, that's Thursday, but
In general, up to further discussion with the committee, but the 4 to 6, 5 to 7 time frame.
Which would
9
put
in
her.
the morning. Is it earlier or later?
I can't do that math.
I don't know. I don't travel outside of going west for 2 time changes.
If
or
it's
1 time.
earlier, it would be like 11 at night.
It would be
It's before us,
Well,
so 17
let
hours
her
before
decide
our
whether
4
that
o'clock
will
time.
work for her.
Yeah.
So it would be in a difficult hour.
So yeah, it'd be 9 in the morning the next day.
So let's invite her on Thursday, keep that door open, and then we'll discuss it.
Is that
How's
okay
that?
with you, Kelly?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we're not setting standards for the whole committee, right? Like, I don't, someone else could fully plan to not be there a lot, and we don't know their plans, So I appreciate her
can
trying to
make
keep
that
us
clear at the
advised, but,
opening.
yeah.
How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks. You can walk quite slowly up the stairs.
I will. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Kara.
Back to turnabout.
Right.
Let me just tell you what we're thinking. We have a work session, we have a special meeting in Redstone on the, John, the
27th September.
of
27th.
September. It's a Tuesday. If we can schedule our work session in the morning to be early, that might give us time to swing by the turnabout on our way up to Redstone. Tuesday, the 27th. I'm anticipating a full board at the Redstone meeting.
Okay.
How does that sound, Leslie?
Well, I will not be here.
Sorry, I turned it off when we were,
Is there anybody else who can,
well, the applicant and their team.
okay, anybody from ComDev who could join us?
I could ask Suzanne
Okay,
or Nicole.
okay.
I was kind of looking at what worked for them within my vacation schedule.
This, I can just assure you, we'll have 5 board members there.
Well, that's encouraging because I think I don't need to be there. I've done it twice. And I think what's so important for you guys to see is they're requesting 2 visually constrained site TDRs. And they will set up story polls for that. And so that will be very important for you to really see. As well as the P&Z approved a 3rd TDR, which is a critical, within proximity to critical wildlife habitat. Those are the things that you have to see.
Yeah.
What do you mean constrained visually sight? What does that mean in terms
It
of?
means that there are 2 lots that were approved as part of the Tybar Ranch that were approved prior to our code that.
So they're on the ridge line or something?
Yeah, that we don't allow new
Yeah.
development to break the ridge line. And so they're requesting the visually constrained site.
And so
TDRs.
what they're saying is if they don't build there, then they want TDRs?
That's what they're requesting. But that's part of their overall large application to amend the previous approvals of Tybar Ranch.
Aren't there like a ton of building sites approved up there?
11.
Yeah, so, okay, so don't build on these 2.
Well, they have the right to come in
Out of
and ask
11?
us.
Well, there's 3 lots that are going away for their riding arena. There's an upper area that was part of the original open space, either parcel A or parcel B open space.
I don't know if we can get into the details of the application at this point.
But that's what I mean. It's part of a much bigger application, but, you know, we don't schedule site visits for you all for every single application, but because these 3 TDRs are being requested, 2 of them visually constrained, I think you need to see those.
So I'm
Is
sorry.
Rye the attorney on this?
We just need to have a member of staff, I don't care who, come with us to help us record the meeting and keep us on track.
And will we be seeing any of this before the site visit so that we know
No.
all of the?
No, so this is scheduled for you for November 16th. And we're working around Glenn Horn's vacation schedule, my vacation schedule, and Sarah Dornan, who is one of the owners of the property. Her baby is due October 13th. So we're trying to schedule all of this around all these things. And get you guys out there for a site visit. And they had requested that you do a site visit before her baby comes versus closer to your November 16th.
And this is an improved sending site?
No, they're asking to.
Because it's not rural and remote or?
Right.
Constrained lots in wildlife you can request.
I'm sorry, Francie, I was thinking receiving site. It's not that it's an approved sending site, they are requesting for these lots to become
sending sites.
Sending sites, yes.
So the fact is, we need to see because if we wait till after the 16th, we'll be getting into winter. Who knows what the weather will be doing or what everybody else is gonna be doing then.
Right.
So
If
the
you
fact
guys
we're gonna
wanna-
be up the crystal that day, if we can arrange it, and hopefully we'll have 5 board members wanting to go to Redstone, I'm hoping, because we told the community we would come up there for a meeting to talk about short-term rentals specific to Redstone.
I know that
We just need to have a member of staff who can come with us.
And we may need to look, I know that, I did get a note from Charlotte that agenda is stacked up a little bit, so we'll need to.
We'll have to look at rearranging.
16th?
I'm sorry, the
No.
17th.
November?
September 17th.
We said the 27th.
27th.
I'm sorry, 27th for a site
Well,
visit.
we'll have to look at that, because if we can take advantage of the board going up to the Redstone and accomplish the site visit, which is up Prince Creek, it only makes sense for us to do both.
So you're thinking, so I'll tell you, the site visit would take about an hour.
We can,
You're thinking after you're at Redstone?
we're Redstone from 4 to 6 is the tentative plan.
So you would maybe go to the turnabout at 2?
Two. So that would give us,
Yeah, because we're gonna need the travel time and getting organized.
but we need
time.
to see what we can figure
I
out.
don't think an hour is enough. This sounds like a big property.
Yeah.
It is a big property, but there's certain areas where you can just stand and go, okay, this is gonna happen here. This is gonna happen here, and then you drive down and go, this is gonna be here, and.
Well, and
Well,
I
if they're
think,
asking for 3 TDRs, we want to spend some time there figuring out what they're talking about.
but I don't see us, not sure we'll have time between then and the 16th, and then after the 16th, we're gonna be getting into the Thanksgiving holiday and weather and budget.
So.
Right, John?
Yeah, we'll be in budget post October 15th. Yeah.
So do you think that it would be prudent for us to kind of come up with a plan B?
Yeah, we probably should, but
Before
right now,
then.
I don't think the board knows what we're doing the end of September.
Well, I was going to ask about,
suggest?
is there any opportunity before the 20th of September?
Well, I'm
Easy for
leaving,
me, so-
I'm going to a conference the week of the 20th, so I'll be out of pocket.
Okay.
Kelly maybe too, and Francie maybe too.
So we don't have any meetings the last week of this month.
That's true.
Of August,
Maybe
29th
you don't.
through the 2nd.
Well, I have some. I'm saying we, as a board, do not have any meetings the last week
Right,
of this
right.
month.
Let's do it then.
Actually, the end of, what are we, August? I have,
When is Steve going away? When are you
Steve's
going away?
leaving the
I
7th,
am back in town on September 19th,
But
and
when
he's
you,
leaving
In the
on the
afternoon.
27th, so Steve will be gone.
leaving August
Friday.
27th.
okay.
Oh, no.
I have meetings all
So
day the
actually, the
30th.
September 27th works great for me.
Can I throw another, Leslie, would a drone video? We've done
No,
those
we need to be
sometimes,
on the
probably wouldn't
ground.
capture it.
I think
Not for these,
Okay.
if this was another kind of project and it was really big and really complicated, I think a drone flight would work really well for this, but not because of the visually constrained
Okay.
question. And the Planning and Zoning Commission is recommending approval of the 2 visually constrained site TDRs as well as the critical habitat, wildlife habitat TDR.
my time the end of September. Oh, when's the baby due?
October 13th.
Like the 23rd, 26th, or the 29th?
So Friday, the 23rd, Monday, 26th, and
29th or
Thursday the
30th, if the
29th.
board's free at any of
I
those.
can't do the 23rd.
Oh, the 19th of September.
Kelly can't do the
Oh,
23rd, so
you're gone
that's
for a
out.
long time.
Yeah.
26th,
back
29th,
In the
30th.
afternoon on the 19th.
Yeah.
What are we saying?
Oh, wait, no, I can't do the 29th. I can do the 26th.
You can do the what?
26th.
Monday, the 26th.
Yeah, we look at Monday, the 26th. Steve will be back.
So you guys are going to come down Valley 2 days in a row?
2 days in a row?
Yeah.
Yeah,
26th and 27th?
Mm-hmm.
it will be warmer
Oh.
down Valley.
No, we're getting a hotel room at the
It'll be
castle.
Redstone. I love the
You can
Crystal.
stay at my house.
Bring my paddleboard and go to Marble and then come up and see you.
Don't
Yeah.
tempt me.
We need someone to water the plants.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Can come up and have a bourbon with me after your visit. I'm
you go.
right across the road.
So I'm going to have to get back to you guys because I had dates that the team was,
Yeah, and John,
Could
I'll look
work.
at the schedule on the 27th.
but
Okay.
I'll talk to Suzanne. She's been on the site once already. She's very familiar with it. I'll ask her if she could fill in for me, and then talk to Glenn Horn as the applicant's rep.
Yeah. The
about-
26 is not optimal, you're right, due to the fact we'll be up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
Welcome to my world.
Well, but you ran for office knowing that. I didn't run for office knowing I'd be up, down,
It's
up,
kind
down.
of your employees, what we do, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
but,
with you on that.
Ride RAFTA.
yeah, but you know
on the
what?
Morning commute.
Rafton won't get us to Redstone.
No, it won't.
Yeah,
You can ride my bike.
I don't ride bikes.
It's not a big deal
So,
going to Redstone.
Are you
It's
guys,
easy.
are you okay with
For
me?
you live at Prince Creek.
It's easy when I come from Aspen to go to Redstone.
So we're looking at the 26th or the 27th.
Yes, but I have to look,
27th would be around 2.
or earlier, I have to look at the schedule and see what we can bump.
And Monday, do we have a time constraint on Monday?
Yes.
Not early.
So we can have lunch at Fat Belly on our way either to or from. But they
Okay.
don't serve bourbon there, so we're out of luck.
Okay.
Definitely not.
And so those are the only 2 days, and then we would be in
Right now, we don't know what Greg's doing because he's in Chile.
Where it's dumping snow, he texted me.
Oh.
That was his choice.
He's doing what?
It's dumping
You
snow.
know, we
in
all
Chile.
get to take vacations in our lives.
Dumping snow.
Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he seems to do a lot more fun than I have.
Can I ask a processing question? So Patty, should I work directly with you on the dates or work through Julia Ely?
Work with me and I'll work with Julia.
Okay.
So September 26th is a Jewish holy day, which might affect some people, perhaps.
Oh, was that Yom Kippur?
That used to be an issue with George, but with George here,
He
it
just didn't
doesn't
want us
affect
scheduling
us.
meetings that day for his constituency. Constituents
Yeah.
are not coming to this.
But maybe there is someone on their team or something who says, you know, this is a day I'm not working today
I
because
don't
of
have
that.
the 25th is Rosh Hashanah, but the 26th.
Well, on my calendar, it said the 26th.
No, 26th is open.
Well, I've put it out to Glenn just now.
Okay. Let's just keep in
It would
touch.
start the evening of the 25th. Maybe that's why it says.
Independence was closed.
Yeah, there was an accident.
It's open now.
On top.
Okay, Leslie, you got it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna let the board know one other thing. Due to a state statutory change, October the 10th is no longer a holiday. October the 3rd is Cabrini?
Yeah.
What? What'd you say?
The state is taking away Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples' Day holiday on the 10th.
Yeah.
They're creating a holiday on the 3rd.
Oh, Cabrini, that's right.
Yeah, Cabrini. And the way the home rule charter reads is that the county recognizes state
Thanks,
and
Leslie.
federal approved
Thank you, Leslie.
holidays. So we will automatically be making that change.
So we'll have the 3rd and the 10th?
No, just the 10th,
Just-
just the 3rd.
Just the 3rd.
The 10th is no longer a state required holiday. Just to let you guys know, and staff is going to be notified of that as soon as possible, so people who may be making plans for a 3-day weekend have to change their weekend.
I have plans for 4 days, 5 days.
Are schools
Going
and
on a
everybody
girls'
doing
trip.
it?
that
You just
weekend.
went on a girls'
I'm
trip.
going on a different girls with different girls.
God, I'm missing vacation and girls' trips, and God, doing something wrong in my life here. I don't have grandbabies to go visit in Alaska. I don't have wolves to go dance with.
Should I bring
All right.
some wolves back with me?
That would save the state so much money. Why would you do that?
I don't know if you could get them through TSA, but you could try. All right, John.
I don't have anything else.
Are you sure? Francie, Steve?
Done.
Thank you.
Okay, we're done.
All right.
All right, Grassroots, thank you very much. We are off. Thank you very much.